Hey, everybody. I'm back again for another show. I had a show earlier today, and I saw Joe was going to end his stream, and he wasn't going to talk about any of the news of the day. So I thought maybe I would just, fire up a stream and see how it goes. Hopefully maybe Joe will send some people over here if he sees the chats and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But I hope everybody had a good night tonight, and sees stuff. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here. I want to edit name and headline. Oh wait, no, that's not what I want to do. The media assets, no. What am I looking for here? Banners, no. Comments. I can't figure this out. I wanted to take the headline off because it seems kind of dumb for me to have the headline in there when I have it scrolling across the bottom. How do I take that off? Hey, Count, see if I do that, it comes off. How do I take it off completely? It's not banners, right? Not media assets, is it? Logo, video clips, banner, no. Style. Oh, here we go. You take the headlines off. Okay, that's better, right? I could take the display name off too. Yeah, why not? That's what I'll do. Finally figured it out. I want to tell you guys about some stuff that's happening in the news today. It's going to start off with something really simple and easy. We have Hakeem Jeffries making some comments about some stuff, And so Hakeem Jeffries says that blocking 1.4 million illegals from taxpayer-funded Medicaid through POTUS's One Big Beautiful Bill is unconscionable and un-American. He's going to do everything in their power to stop us. Why do Democrats keep putting illegals before our own vulnerable citizens? Ignore all that stuff, Jim. It's fine like this. Okay. That's the thing, they keep telling us that no illegals collect Medicaid. That, it's a lie. But they're screaming about illegals getting taken off of Medicaid. They were screaming the other day about illegals, about the Medicaid and HHS going to turn over all the information to ICE about the illegals that are collecting Medicaid. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a lot of illegals collecting Medicaid. But let's hear what Dollar Store Obama has to say.
And the proposed cuts to Medicaid, the largest cuts being proposed to Medicaid in American history are unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American, and together we're going to do everything we can to stop them. And the proposed cuts to Medicaid, the largest cuts.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand why we would be okay with people coming here to suck from our, basically to suck from us, to take our benefits and everything. We want people to come here that are going to actually help us, not add to our problems. That's my opinions, but whatever. Yeah, Obama fooled a lot of people. He fooled a lot of people. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay, we've got another story here. So, insanity. A district court judge just blocked the shutdown of the GEC, the State Department Social Media Censorship Bureau. So you guys remember that girl, what was her name? Something Poppins, Mary Poppins. Remember she was Creepy Poppins or whatever. She was singing the song about block, about stopping everyone from, what, anyway, she was just singing the song and stuff. She was going around saying she wants to censor everybody, and she was trying to do it in this cutesy little way, singing songs and stuff. I can't remember her name, but and she wanted to be on this disinformation board or whatever. It was a disinfo thing, and they were just basically want to censor people. Yeah, so we have this. It says a federal judge just blocked President Trump's attempt to kill the State Department's FEMA unit, a censorship office masquerading as an anti-disinfo program. Born as the GEC in 2016 to counter Russian propaganda, which it was a Russian lies that they said they were lying about Russian interference in the election, Russiagate. So that's what it all came out of. The agency quickly mission creeped into U.S. politics, leaning on tech firms to crush dissenting voices before the 2020 election. It's now a pillar of censorship industrial complex, a sprawling fusion of federal money and narrative control ops. In April, Secretary of State Marco Rubio declared the unit dead, but now Judge Susan Ilston says eliminating the RFEMA violates her prior injunction against sweeping Trump-led agency cuts. The court's latest order bars the State Department from touching the unit unless it asks the judge for permission. That seems crazy, right? Like, you need a judge. This whole thing with these judges, they're basically overstepping their bounds. They keep trying to make it so that basically you got to get their permission. This is ridiculous. We have one president that stands for election and that we elect to do these things, to run the government. And the fact that they want him to have to check with 700 or 800 of these, unelected bureaucratic judges who have lifetime appointments, it just doesn't seem like something that is a workable system that we can survive like this. I really don't. Life is different. I don't plan on talking about Tucker and Cruz at all. I was watching Joe, and I just don't want to get into that. So we'll see. But here, we're going to read this article. No thanks. We're going to read this article from Reclaim the Net. Comeback Who Gaming. I think they're trying, no matter who it is in power, they want us to be afraid. To be afraid of people outside the country, so that way we're not paying attention to what they're doing to us inside this country. There was a very there was a very interesting news break came the other, 2 days ago, a couple nights ago at 10 at night. about how China was interfering with the 2020 election, printing mail-in ballots, that the FBI knew about it, and they just released all this info. It's odd that that would get released like that, late at night, and why now? Like, what are they trying to distract us from? Is my main question. So it's very, I don't know. I don't trust the government. I think the government is, generally speaking, terrible. So if you're tired of censorship and surveillance, subscribe to Reclaim the Net. A federal judge in California has halted the Trump administration's efforts to dismantle the State Department's Counter Foreign Information Manipulation and Intelligence Hub, formerly known as the Global Engagement Center. In a June 13th order, U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston declared the planned elimination of the unit, part of a broader push by the administration to downsize the federal government, violates an earlier injunction. We obtained a copy of the order here. Secretary of State Marco Rubio may have prematurely celebrated the end of our FEMA back in April when he said the censorship unit was dead. Despite his announcement, legal barriers remain in place, preserving the agency's existence for now. Through the agency of the federal judiciary, through the intervention of the federal judiciary, our FIMI, a program with a $50 million annual budget that has drawn fire for suppressing online speech under the pretenses of combating foreign disinformation, has been granted an unexpected lifeline. The agency, a legacy of the Obama administration, was launched in 2016 to monitor and counter alleged foreign propaganda, particularly from Russia. But over time, its activities expanded into domestic spheres, drawing allegations that it pressured social media platforms to silence certain political voices ahead of the 2020 election. That's just crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Crazy. More inside the 1.5 billion U.S. industrial complex, how MDM grants built a domestic and global narrative control network. Well, I don't know if we're going to read that story, but Judge Ilston's ruling came in response to growing concerns from federal employee unions over sweeping executive actions they argue circumvent congressional oversight. The case, American Federation of Government Employees, AFL-CIO et al. Versus Donald J. Trump, challenges President Trump's February executive order 14210, which called for widespread agency reorganization and staff reductions across multiple departments, including state. Ilston previously issued a preliminary injunction on May 9th barring these cuts. In Friday's order, she directly addressed the State Department's attempt to move forward with plans to shutter our FIMI, stating, actions to be taken pursuant to the State Department's reorganization plan are prohibited by the court's injunctive reliefs. See, something's got to be done about these injunctions. There's no way that a judge should be able to do this and stop the federal government from actually running the federal government, as there are final separations scheduled in the State Department's Counter Foreign Information Manipulation and Interference Program. She added a pointed directive. If the State Department has any question about whether planned actions fall within the scope of the court's injunction, the court orders the department to first raise these questions with the court before taking action. So she thinks the State Department has to get her permission to run the State Department. That's insane. Rubio's attempt to sidestep the court's prior ruling and sunset our FIMI unit has now been frozen, part of the ongoing legal tug-of-war over executive authority and the role of the judiciary in restraining or enabling bureaucratic overhaul. For now, our FIMI's future remains entangled in litigation, and its controversial role in reshaping public discourse continues unabated. Wow. Yeah, if you're here, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're unsubscribed. Let's see here. Should we look at this one? Inside the $1.5 billion U.S. censorship industrial complex, how MDM grants built a domestic and global narrative of control network. Oh, say I have to subscribe to see this, so yeah, I'm not going to do that. So let's go to the next story. Hold on. Illegal immigrant arrested after allegedly chasing down U.S. attorney with knife in Albany. Well, this seems like it's going to be a very good story, right? Here, is he still going? I can't believe he's still going. He said he was ending his stream. Joe lied. He said he was ending his stream, and he's still going. That's crazy. He lied to me. Yeah, he just wanted me to leave, I think. He wanted to trick me. So, let's see here. An illegal immigrant in New York has been arrested for allegedly threatening a U.S. attorney with a knife. The incident occurred Tuesday in the state capital of Albany when Saul Morales Garcias, an illegal immigrant from El Salvador, he's going to be going to that CCOT resort in El Salvador, allegedly approached John A. Sarcone III, a U.S. attorney from the Northern District of New York, with a knife at the Hilton Hotel. Morales Garcia allegedly pulled out the knife and lunged toward the federal prosecutor, the Times Union newspaper reports. Sarcone retreated into the hotel. So I wonder if this was a targeted attack. Targeted attack, or if this was like, anyway. Security camera footage reviewed by police showed Morales Garcia wielding a knife and appearing to go after Sarcone as he ran toward the Hilton lobby. Yeah. Okay. As he ran towards the Hilton lobby, Morales Garcia was previously deported, that apparently re-entered the U.S. recently without authorization. Well, if he was previously deported and re-entered, I think that's an automatic 10 years, I think, or something like that, and it's a felony. So, like, they don't even need to, he's going to be gone, so they'll just send him to CCOT since he's El Salvadorian. Sarcone told the news outlet that he had left his office shortly before the incident and was walking by the hotel smoking a cigar when he noticed Morales Garcia. Says, I got my eye on him, then I turned back and I'm in front of the Hilton and I'm just standing there and I'm looking at him. And then he starts yelling at me in his language that I don't understand. Sarcone said, I'm smoking a cigar, I don't say anything to him, and then he pulls this knife. He lunges towards me and I'm still standing there with the cigar. He said he kept a safe distance from Morales Garcia and retreated into the hotel lobby, then called Albany County Sheriff Craig Apple. So he just called the sheriff on the phone? What do you mean, Star SB Farmer? I like you just fine. I don't know. I think Joe just started talking about stuff and got sidetracked. I don't know. I didn't really talk to him in advance. I sent him a message saying that, you know, if he could raid my stream when he ends. But I don't know. You know, he probably didn't see it or whatever. And this is probably, you know, I'll probably get like 12 or 13 people watching or something like that. So it's no big deal though. I need to practice this because you know, I'm not very good at the streaming stuff. It's what people tell me. I didn't want him to get away, and I yelled out to him. He continued. He turns around and he starts yelling again, and then he pulls out the knife, and then there's this gesture across the throat thing, like he's going to slit my throat. So he like pulled the knife out and went like this. And then he comes at me, and I ran back towards the hotel, and then he stopped and then turned around. Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks, Life and Different. I'm trying. I'm trying. The deputies arrived at the moment at that moment and took the man into custody without incident, Sarcone said. According to police, Morales Garcia's had a knife in his possession that they seized it as evidence. Sarcone was not injured. I'm a resident of the city of Albany, and I don't feel safe to go out for a walk and have a cigar right near the state capitol, Sarcone said. Morales Garcia told police that he didn't know that Sarcone is the U.S. attorney. Unnamed law enforcement sources told the Times Union he has been charged with attempted murder, felony weapons possession, and a misdemeanor count of menacing. City Court Judge John C. Riley. Wow, I wonder, did they have Will Ferrell's there too? Signed a protection order for forbidding Morales Garcia from having contact with Sarcone. So what, did they release him then? Probably with no bail? A deputy public defender told Riley that he didn't believe the evidence justified an attempted murder charge and requested it be dismissed, with Morales Garcia released under probationary supervision. Defense attorneys are going to be defense attorneys, District Attorney Lee Kilden said when asked about Sophia's request. Prosecutors argued that Morales Garcia is a flight risk as he has criminal charges pending in Georgia, Virginia. What? Wait a minute. Wait. This guy has criminal charges pending in Georgia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and federal court, and an active warrant seeking his arrest in Georgia. And he re-entered after being deported. What is going on? And what is he being protected in New York? They're shielding him, sanctuary state. Is this one of the people that Kathy Hochul is going to protect, and that she's going to is going to keep from the feds from getting and deporting? Is this what the 50 million she was talking about the other day? Is that what it's all about? Morales Garcia pleaded not guilty and was sent to Albany County Jail without bail. A grand jury hearing is scheduled for Friday, and a hearing in city court is scheduled for Monday. New York Republican Elise Stefanik said in a statement on Wednesday, in Kathy Hochul's New York, nobody is safe, not even President Trump's U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of New York, John A. Sarcone III, who was confronted and chased by an illegal alien with a knife in Albany last night, Times Union reported. 3 separate times, Hochul signed executive orders to protect violent, illegal aliens from deportation. Kathy Hochul put illegals first and New Yorkers last. We desperately need a governor who puts New Yorkers first and restores law and order to our streets. I mean, hey, there's another criminal. Menendez to begin 11-year prison sentence in Pennsylvania for corruption conviction. I wonder if he's going to get a pardon or something, or because Trump knows him, so I wouldn't be surprised if he pardons him on his way out or something. So what we have here is we have another incident of an illegal alien who snuck back into the country after being deported, who is wanted in multiple states and jurisdictions for violent crimes, and who's just running around with no care in the world, pulling knives on people in the capital of New York. I don't understand how this is happening. I don't understand why more people aren't upset and aren't raging in the streets and saying something has to be done about this. It just seems like it's insane. It seems like it's insane.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
I'm sorry. That was weird.
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
What is happening? Okay. So, we recently learned that an astounding 1/3 of community college applications in California are fake. They're just used for financial aid fraud. Following our letter to the Secretary of Education, the department is now implementing new identity verification requirements. Well, this is a crazy story, right? This is crazy.
Mr. Speaker, I have sent a letter along with several of my colleagues in the California delegation to Secretary of Education Linda McMahon and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Asking them to investigate a simple question. Why is it so stunningly easy to commit fraud against the state of California? During the COVID era, we saw fraud unlike we had ever seen when $32 billion in unemployment benefits were purloined
purloined, that's a cool word. That's a way to say stealing and sound like you're like
easily able to defraud
like
Gavin Newsom's
very well educated
unemployment department. And now the latest example that we've learned is that over 1/3 of community college applications in the state were fraudulent. These were not real people, not real students actually seeking a spot at one of our community colleges. What they were instead were scams, were individuals who were trying and succeeding in committing financial aid fraud, saving more than $10 million in federal funds and millions more in state aid, according to the California Community Chancellor's own office. So we have asked the Attorney General and the Secretary of Education to look into this matter and see why California has not been able to stop this from happening. We know that with respect to the EDD fraud in the COVID era, the governor's office failed to take the basic common sense steps that other states took that the federal government had advised. For example, cross-checking applications for unemployment against the prison rules, something that almost every other state did and California didn't do. And I would not be surprised to learn that there were similar oversights here with respect to the community college fraud. So we look forward to getting back the results of this investigation, and we urge the state to take immediate action to make sure that millions more in taxpayer dollars aren't lost.
Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. So here's an article from the San Francisco Chronicle that says thousands of ghost students are applying to California colleges to steal financial aid. Here's how. Months after a mysterious check for $1,400 landed in Richard Villacente's mailbox last summer, the U.S. Department of Education notified him that the money was a mistake, an overpayment of the $3,000 Pell Grant he had used to attend Saddleback College in Orange County. I told them I never applied for a Pell, said Villicente, a 64-year-old radiation oncologist at UC Davis who had never heard of Saddleback. Villicente's name is among the stolen identities used in thousands of fraudulent attempts to enroll in community colleges in California and across the country since classes shifted online during the pandemic. The aim is to steal financial aid. Fake enrollments also crowd out legitimate students and create hours of work for colleges trying to eliminate ghost students. Colleges that disperse grants to fraudsters are on the hook to repay the feds. Yeah, we really think that's happening. We really think that the feds are busy collecting this stuff. We've saw who's working for the federal government, and those people are not gonna. I'm not gonna say they're. Well, let's just say the truth. They're mostly incompetent people that couldn't work in the private sector. That's why they're in government work. Today, about 20% of California's community college applications are scams. More than 460,000 of the 2.3 million requests to the state online application system since July alone, says the state chancellor's office, which oversees the 116 campuses. Community colleges are required to accept any student in the state with a high school diploma, and a social security number is not required to apply. What? How do they verify anything? The system screening software blocked just half of the fraudsters while the rest slipped through to try and enroll in online classes, then used their bogus student status to seek financial aid, at which point they must submit a social security number. That's crazy. That is crazy. That is plain old crazy. Enrollment fraud surged during the COVID crisis alongside new opportunities for anyone in possession of a stolen identity and a criminal mind. Students no longer had to show up in person and often still don't. Pell Grants, the federal government college subsidies for needy students, have long tempted fraudsters, but the money became easier to steal when the U.S. Department of Education stopped verifying family income during the pandemic, a waiver expected to remain in place until the next award cycle. Although the state's software has caught more than half of the fraudulent admission applications since July, that still left about 200,000 sham applications. We've worked really hard to close obvious and less than obvious routes for people to pretend to be from the United States and pretend to be from California, said John Hetz, an executive vice chancellor with the state. But because so many phony applications make it through, all colleges have to deal with this. Yeah, and then they want to give the federal government to cover everything and pay everything. The fraudsters are human, Hetz said, but it's their bots, software algorithms that mimic enrolled students. So officials find themselves in a cat and mouse game to stay ahead of the criminals, and they won't give details about how they do it lest they tip anyone off. Kim Rich, a criminal justice instructor at L.A. Pierce College near Los Angeles, has become an expert in identifying faux students in her online classes. Among the clues she looks for, consecutive ID numbers, similar email patterns that don't match student names, and birth dates from the 1960s or 70s that indicate students far older than usual. Oh, hey, hello, Kim Rich. Yeah, she looks like she's a nosy body. The U.S. Department of Education's Office of Inspector General says it has 48 active investigations into college fraud rings, including in California. They just said there's 200,000 bogus ones, so how's there only 48 rings? Impersonating students is crucial to the scam. Once a college requires an in-person appearance, the crime falls apart. For remote classes, instructors are now told to drop anyone who doesn't appear on day one. Our colleges have put in a lot of effort to make sure students are real, Het says. Ricky Hall, admissions director at Los Medanos College in Pittsburgh, says crime fighting now takes up 25% of her time. Often that means connecting personally with applicants flagged as suspicious by the state's CCC apply system. Hall already has uncovered 59 phony enrollments in the year's summer session. It's the most we've ever had, she said. Wow, that's insane. At least one fraudster received a $3,000 Pell Grant, said Tammy Arroyo, financial aid director. Why are these all women in charge of everything? I mean, does it seem like maybe there's a problem? Why is it all women doing all this stuff? And then they're wondering why people are getting away with this stuff. I don't know. Maybe they need like some guy with a wrinkled jacket that looks like Columbo in there going, one more thing. Let me ask you about this question. Then they would catch some people with this stuff. Maybe. I don't know. And Joe's still going. I can't believe it. I can't believe he did this to me. He didn't do anything to me. I'm just messing around. The chancellor's office now requires colleges to send monthly reports of fake students. At city colleges in San Francisco, 29 bogus students have received 22,418 in Pell Grants, said officials who reported 59 fraud attempts this spring alone. Administrators also just blocked 505 ghost students from the summer classes. According to an internal memo shared by the Chronicle, of more than 4,300 suspicious enrollments since 2020, college officials say they prevented 10% from enrolling. Whoa. 10% only? They only prevented 10% from enrolling? What isn't clear is whether any of the rest were ghosts. This fraud is preventing real students from getting into classes they need, Darlene Alito, department chair and council president, told the College Board of Trustees in April, noting that some employees work day and night to fend off fraudsters. Wow, so there's going to be a whole new group of people now just to fight the fraud? Maybe they need to make it harder to get the money. I know that they don't want to hear that it shouldn't be so easy to just give everybody money. But if you're just giving out money, it's the same thing that's happened with the USAID, then you get all the fraud, you know? One department eliminated 80 ghost students only to have 80 more show up within an hour, she told the trustees in February. One department, fraud has changed how instructors handle classes. For example, they used to allow multiple absences before dropping students, Alito told Chronicle. Now we hope to drop students before the first financial aid check is sent out. It's all very time-consuming. State officials were so alarmed that they added $100 million to the state budget last summer for improved cyber barriers to fight false registrations and protect sensitive data. So instead of just making it so that they can't commit the fraud, you're going to just spend more money to make it make it a little more difficult, a little harder to steal the money? It has helped, but colleges can still be fooled into adding courses to accommodate a perceived higher need. That happened this spring at Pierce College, where Rich's 2 8-week classes were to begin April 10th. Each had filled with 40 students by early March, so she was asked to teach another. It filled in a week. I was kind of shocked, Rich said, a former deputy sheriff and fraudulent student consultant who teaches other instructors to recognize ghost enrollments. After Rich analyzed her 3 rosters, enrollment in one class dropped from 40 to 29, another to 22, and the last to just 2 students. It is 100% disservice to every single taxpayer, she said. These criminals wouldn't still be doing this if they weren't getting the money. Total enrollment at Pierce stood at 7,658 before the college's 8-week classes began this spring. By the time instructors cleared the ghosts, enrollment was down to 4,937. So wait. So almost a third of the students were ghosts. Wow. We had 3 classes that were full with wait lists, and now they're down to 12 students, lamented a philosophy professor on May 9th at the meeting to discuss the problem. Neither state nor federal officials would say how much money fraudsters have stolen. Even so, fraud rings continue to be a significant part of our investigation activity. In 2014, that office had identified 132 college fraud rings, up from 16 a decade earlier when online classes were rare. Now it reports 100 a year to the Federal Student Aid Office. Arrests, if they happen, can take years. In March, the U.S. Justice Department arrested 2 Los Angeles women and 1 from Las Vegas on suspicion of stealing nearly $1 million in financial aid between 2012 and 2017. Yeah, I mean, if there's that kind of money floating around, there's going to be people trying to take it. The 20-page indictment sheds light on how alleged scam worked. On 40 occasions, prosecutors said the women used identities stolen from prisoners to apply for student loans and Pell Grants, with the Education Department mostly approved. The U.S. Treasury transferred the funds to the Federal Reserve Bank, which moved the money to an account used by Orange County colleges. After taking the fees, the colleges sent the rest to Bank Mobile. Oh yeah, because see, the colleges, a lot of colleges don't really care because they get fees off of each one anyway, and they get to pocket the money. So to them, they don't care. And after taking the fees, the colleges sent the rest to Bank Mobile, an app-based bank with accounts and fake student names. Bank Mobile transferred those funds to a personal account or mailed a prepaid debit card to the address provided by the fraudster. In all, the Education Department released $980,000. If convicted, each woman could face 30 years in federal prison per count. Wow, that's a long time. 30 years per count, I bet you. Valicenti, the doctor who got the $1,400 in purported overdraft of his Pell Grant, believes his identity was stolen during a 2021 data breach at UC Davis. His odyssey led him to contact Saddleback College, a consumer credit company, the IRS, the police, and the Education Department, which confirmed it sent the check. They wanted half of it back, said Valenti. I said, don't you want the rest? This is not my money. They said no. He sent them $700. That is ridiculous. So he got to keep half the money? That doesn't make any sense. That's our government for you. They send you money. And then and here's another story about it, about this whole thing here. Read just 1 second here. Hold on. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, we'll accept this. All right. SoCure identifies highly organized ghost students attacking America's college system. Something strange is happening in America's community college. Professors are calling roll call for students who never show up. Online classes are filled with registered students, but many don't log in, submit an assignment, or respond to an email. These aren't struggling students. They aren't dropouts. These aren't really students at all. Welcome to the era of ghost students, largely stolen identities engineered to hijack financial aid dollars. They're flooding the system in growing waves, invisible to faculty, but devastatingly real to taxpayers, and what started as a trickle has become a tidal wave. In 2024, California alone reported that nearly 1 in 3 college applications were fraudulent. Over $13 million in financial aid vanished into the ether in just 1 year. It has been reported that some colleges flagged more than 70% of their applicants as suspicious. Nationally, the stakes are enormous. Nearly $3.2 billion in financial aid hangs in the balance across a system designed to help real people build futures. Behind this growing epidemic is a sophisticated network of fraud rings. They operate at scale, leveraging stolen identities using automation bots and deploying VPNs and proxy servers to mask their origin. They even deploy AI-generated homework to trick faculty into believing the student is genuinely enrolled, just long enough to secure funding, then they disappear. This isn't just an education issue anymore, it's a cybersecurity breach, a mass-scale identity theft ring, and a threat to the very mission of America's public colleges. Open access to opportunity. If we don't act decisively, these ghosts won't just haunt classrooms, they'll siphon resources from students who need them most and create financial concerns for some colleges, for some college systems. I mean, I guess the colleges could if they have to pay back the money if it's a fraudulent student. But why would the college be on the hook for the government not doing its job to protect the money? Seems like the person doing the screwing up is the government, not the colleges. SoCure's analysis of the college admission applications, how the ghosts operate. Out of the great concern over ghost applicants, several affected colleges asked us to look into the problem. We used Secure's proprietary entity graph intelligence to perform an analysis of over 6,000 college admission applications, either marked as fraud or that scored high enough using Sigma identity, third-party fraud, and Sigma synthetic scores between Q4 2024 and Q1 2025 for several state college systems. From our analysis, it appears that each individual college system is being targeted by a single actor or group. Email, IP address, and name patterns are too similar within each of the accounts not to be the same group. The table below reflects the signals that the highest difference between fraud and good or non-fraud populations. As you can see, when the fraud applicant includes an email address that has not been seen before, the signal fires almost 97% of the time, compared to only 40% of the time for good non-fraud identities on applications. So I wonder if this is coming from out of the country, if this is like North Korea or China or India or what it is doing this, or if this is actually people in the US doing it, I wonder. Like separate incidents from the breaches where attackers obtained the victims' names, dates of birth, and social security numbers, when email addresses were created for the fraudulent act, they simply chose the Google suggested email address. For example, first name plus random number. First, last, random number. There are similar differences in fraud and good firing rates for IP and physical addresses used on applications that have similar deltas. Sheila Marie says, look at state of Washington next. I work at the university and community college. They have tons of undocumented migrants. Online classes at the CC are more popular than in school classes. Yeah, well, it sounds like it's because they're stealing the money, the Pell Grant money and the different financial aid money. That's what it sounds like. What this is saying, they're taking money. It's just a scam. Without exception, all these attacks were far more sophisticated than your average fraud attack. They rarely use phone numbers and physical addresses, though duplicates are typically found in the coordinated attacks leveraging stolen identities. They are consistent in their use of IP addresses and VPNs to hide their location. The level of effort involved in building each system, each stolen identity is substantial, and we believe that achieving this at scale would only be possible with the help of bots or AI agents. Because of the heavy use of VPNs, mobile network proxies, and some international IPs, we believe these attacks are likely coming from outside the United States. Okay. Some of the patterns we saw across the attacks. I mean, because you got to think if it's coming from outside the United States, it could be a government, could be North Korea, it could be China, it could be someone inside those countries. I mean, if you can get tens of thousands of these things and you get tens of thousands of dollars for each one, I mean, you're getting into millions of dollars territory. While most of the news reports regarding ghost students suggest that these are synthetic identities, the vast majority of the applications appear to leverage real victims' personal data rather than fabricated identities. Among the applicants, there was a high prevalence of formal name uses, e.g. 62 instances of Michael versus 2 of Mike, 44 of David and 0 for Dave, 29 William versus 1 Will, and 0 Bill. The pattern hits that the data was stolen from organizations that require a formal first name for their database. There were 146 cases involving social security numbers linked to the deceased. I mean, illegal aliens do use a lot of stolen identities to work. So why wouldn't they use them to scam money from the government for financial aid? It makes sense, right? Address trends across the stolen identities. Many listed addresses which were apartment complexes but didn't include a unit number. Additionally, the identities did not validate to the address that was listed. Secure's address risk score reflected a higher rate of fraud when an average population tied mainly to conflicting mobile IP addresses and phone numbers used on the application. Phone clues. None of the submitted phone numbers matched applicant names and ownership. Many were voice over IP, landlines, or wireless phones flagged as leaked online. Often, the phone number was omitted from being provided in the application. Email development. Emails followed predictable patterns to a great extent, e.g., like John Smith 89 at Gmail. We believe that many of the Gmail accounts were generated en masse using Gmail suggested email formats to help speed development of thousands of new email addresses that match the applicant's first and last name. Over 90% of the tagged fraud presented applications with Gmail email account domain. So why couldn't they get Google? Someone should be like the federal government should be in contact with Google. They should be tracking these down, like, and stop, making them like somehow preventing this from happening. Somehow, like, because there's got to be a way to prevent them from mass. Like if you see one, because they can't be using a different IP address for every email address. That would be like really complicated to do, I would think. But maybe they can. I don't know. I guess maybe if they have a bot farm with thousands of phones and they're all separate IP addresses, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe you're right. We don't really want the feds talking to Google again. While some of the fraud patterns were broad enough to suggest the involvement of multiple individuals or groups, our analysis uncovered subtle behavioral overlaps that strongly indicate that all of the attacks we analyzed were orchestrated by the same perpetrators or organized groups. So it could be like one massive fraud ring in some weird country. It could be, like Czechoslovakia, or I'm not picking them out just to be mean. I'm just saying it could be just any weird country with a hacker group that's doing this to get money. Each of the 5 college systems we examined exhibited distinct characteristics, but in several instances we observed notable consistencies, such as repeated use of certain address types, similar email structures, and shared technical infrastructure, pointing to a common origin. Across all 5 systems, we saw the same consistency in formal name usage, as well as a prevalence in name common in the U.S., suggesting stolen identities may have originated from the same data breach, likely from a formal institution or database that does not record nicknames. I mean, we know that they broke into basically everything. They've stole like all the information from the federal government. They've stole it from like Experian. Didn't Experian get hit? Equifax and all them, and all the different credit. I mean, everybody's been hacked, it seems, at this point. Given some overlap in addresses as well as the similarities in email formatting, VPN usage, and proxy networks, we believe that at least 2 of the college systems were targeted by the same fraud actors. These connections, while not conclusive on their own, form a compelling pattern of coordinated fraud activity that warrants further investigation. Who is investigating it, though? Is the feds investigating it? I hope somebody is. It says stopping ghost students before they get online. States and colleges are beginning to fight back. Some institutions have already implemented mandatory identification verification at the point of application. Well, that's a lot. Implemented mandatory identification verification at the point of application, while others are weighing the introduction of modest application fees, typically between $5 and $10, as a deterrent against mass bot submissions. However, concerns about access and equity have stalled the broader adoption of this approach for now. Well, how equitable is it if the money is being stolen by fraud and not getting to the people who really need it? Isn't that a problem? Isn't that really like the opposite of equity? Is if it's just being stolen? Oh, what's this? Yeah, the recent Nebraska meatpacking ice raid with over 100 illegals was filmed by News Nation. The owner checked them on E-Verify. Most had illegal identification. Yeah, I know they steal the identification. A lot of it's coming out of China, actually. China has been sending. I saw there was a massive story about China shipping in like every month 50 to 70,000 IDs into the U.S. driver's licenses that you can't tell from the real thing. Basically, the only way you could would be to like take it to the DMV and have them compare it to the records in the DMV to match the pictures. A more scalable and accessible strategy lies in the integration of advanced identity verification and fraud prevention technologies directly into college loan and admission systems. Secure's Sigma identity fraud and Sigma synthetic models can passively verify whether an applicant is a real student without creating friction for legitimate users. High-risk applicants are seamlessly escalated through Risk OS, Secure's orchestration platform, which initiates a document verification process requiring a government-issued ID and live selfie. At this stage, device intelligence is also collected to more accurately determine the applicant's true geographic location when accessing the college system. This layered approach is both efficient and highly effective. In our analysis of the 5-state college system, Secure's technologies were able to identify up to 90% of the fraud applications before they would reach the classroom. If you have not protected your front door using these type of technologies, it's likely these ghost students are part of your student body. This looks like an ad for this company that I'm reading. Yeah. If you have not, use Portfolio Scrub to identify risk identities on the rolls in order to cancel classes for the fake students. There is a significant potential to implement ongoing fraud detection mechanisms even after a fraudulent application is successfully enrolled. To receive financial aid disbursements, fraudsters must not only enroll in courses, but they must also appear to participate. This typically requires attending classes and submitting assignments, with professors ultimately needing to issue grades. Colleges we spoke with told us that AI-powered chatbots are increasingly being used by these ghost students to attend virtual classes and submit coursework. This suggests the successful fraud at college level often requires a long con, one that extends well beyond the initial enrollment. The longer the con, the more opportunities there are to detect anomalies and discover digital footprints. Yeah, I was pulling up. I saw this story on Twitter, on Twitter, and then I saw it the Chronicle, and then I did a search to see more stuff about it, to get more information, to have more stuff on it. And I'm feeling like this is an ad for this company now, and I don't know if I should keep reading it. I mean, it does have good information, but it just seems like they're pushing their stuff. So I think that's it. I think that's all I'm going to talk about this. So we have a massive problem. We have a massive problem with schools. We have a massive problem with schools and fraud, and something needs to be done about it, because basically we have a bunch of people running around right now trying to get all of us to pay for everyone's college. They want free college. But could you imagine the amount of fraud that would happen if it was just free college and the government was paying for everything, for everyone's college? I mean, oh my God, we would be spending trillions of dollars a year, and it would probably mostly be fraud. So I got a little video here I want to play for you guys. It's a short video. It's not long. It's from Charles L. Downs. He's a reporter, I believe, that he works with Laura Loomer. I don't know if you guys know Laura Loomer. Anyway, it says the left's anti-Trump protesters are now so enraged that they are now flying the Iranian flag outside the White House. Follow Laura Loomer for updates on the protesters' lovely chants.
I kid you not. The left is so angry at President Trump, they're now flying the Iranian flag. Yes, the anti-Trump protesters now support Iran. They're very unhinged today. Also, check out, we got Trump's flagpole, we got the Iran flag, we got the Palestine flag. We just basically got the Middle East here outside the White House, and of course we got Israel too. So stay with Laura Loomer's X account. We have tons of great videos we're about to be putting out as this protest continues outside the White House.
Oh yeah, Sheila Marie. I have that story. It's in the queue about the DNC being broke, and they're looking to borrow money to pay their bills. So yeah, there's a lot of problems going with the DNC lately. There was a big. I don't know if Joe talked about it yesterday or not. I have the article. Yeah, Sheila, I haven't covered it yet. It's later. It's in the queue. Oh, hey, Salty. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. Glad you could make it. Bye. Good seeing you. I don't know if you guys know Salty. His name, Sean Salter. He is a comic book artist. He's very good. He's got a comic book called Silence Do Good, which is based roughly, based on the life and times of Ben Franklin, but seen through a modern time. And he's a time traveler and a detective. And it's a very, if you got kids and you'd like them to read something that's historical and fun, I would suggest give them a call, give them a look. It's a Turkey Robot Productions, Turkey or Robot Turkey or Turkey Robot or something like that. So if you want to drop the link, Salty, you can go ahead and drop the link for your book. So let's go to the next one. Here we go. Political violence. The effort by Democrats to obstruct and even assault ICE agents is part of their larger plan to convince Americans to do the same, justifying lawlessness in the name of saving democracy. It's kind of crazy, right? They want to save democracy by creating lawlessness and crime. It seems very suspect to me. Very suspect. Oversight to obstruction, the Democrat campaign to undermine ICE and federal law. On its surface, the growing tide of viral videos showing confrontations between federal immigration officers and Democrat politicians and activists might appear spontaneous, but they are not. These moments, now shared with choreographed outrage and amplified across corporate media channels, are more accurately viewed as performances, carefully staged by Democrat politicians, designed not to correct the law, but to break it in public, and to shame those who dare enforce it. The objective is not legal reform through constitutional means, it is mass resistance to lawful immigration enforcement, powered by repetition, misinformation, and the hope that enough noise will overwhelm the clarity. Worse still, the authors of this resistance know the law. Many of them are attorneys, lawmakers, even judges. Yet they repeatedly demonstrate false claims that they have the training to know are false, with the clear aim of inciting the public to obstruct federal enforcement efforts. And in doing so, they cross a line from civic participation to coordinated sabotage. It is time to clarify what the law actually says and to expose the disinformation campaign behind these myths. Consider, for instance, the increasingly common claim that ICE or DEA officers are not permitted to wear masks. This is wrong. Not debatably wrong or debatably misleading, it is categorically and legally false. Federal agents have always been authorized to wear masks, especially during high-risk operations. In fact, in recent years, it has become a matter of necessity. Agents are routinely targeted for doxing by activist groups seeking to make them and their families pariahs. Simultaneously, cartels like MS-13 and Tren de Aragua target federal officers for retaliation. Masks are therefore not only permitted, they are often critical to officer safety, and this fact is recognized in federal policy. In Portland, 2020, DHS explicitly defended masked agents after Antifa-aligned groups circulated names and photos of officers. Uniforms continued to clearly indicate agency affiliation. There is no law requiring personal identification be visible to the public. This leads to the next myth, that federal officers must provide their names or badge numbers upon request, as state and local officers often must. Again, this is false. While state and municipal police are frequently governed by transparency statutes, federal officers are not. There is no federal statute requiring ICE, DEA, or FBI agents to wear or disclose identifying numbers to the public. Agency policy varies, but the key legal requirements is simply that officers identify their agency and legal authority to make an arrest, nothing more. When ICE agents conduct an arrest, they do so under 8 U.S.C. 1357, which requires them to identify themselves as immigration officers and state the reason for arrest. Disclosure of personal identity is neither required nor always safe, and the law recognizes this. Yeah, here's a video of that clown the clown in we'll play this real quick. The clown. The clown. You know, this guy thinks he has the right to tell ICE they can't arrest somebody, an illegal alien. He doesn't. They don't need a judicial warrant. See, the Congress set up the INA, the Immigration and Naturalization Act, which took immigration enforcement away from the federal courts, the Article 3 courts, and put them with the immigration courts. And by doing so, they like to say that, well, it's not a criminal matter because it's not with the criminal courts, it's this other court. But yes, it's just like bankruptcy court, you know. You go to bankruptcy court, it's a different court, or you go to copyright court, it's a different court, but it's still a federal law and it's still a crime. It's just not handled by, they didn't want to clog up, you know, like the district courts and the appeals courts with all these immigration things. So they set up specific courts just to handle it, just for speed and for ease of getting it done. It had nothing to do with it not being a crime. You know, what's funny is I think all these guys have that same lisp, Darth Kitty. It seems like him and the guy from California both have that same lisp.
Where is it? Sir, where is the warrant? I would like to see the warrant, and then I will let go. I would like to see the warrant, and I will let go. Take him in. 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 Let's go. You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens.
And this, he says, you don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens. They don't have the authority to take a U.S. citizen for detaining for violating immigration law, because that would be ridiculous. But if in a U.S., there are federal law enforcement officers that have all the same authorities and powers of any federal officer. If they see somebody breaking federal law, they can arrest them. I mean, do you think if a DEA agent sees somebody doing a kidnapping, they have to go, well, that's the FBI. We don't do kidnapping. That's the FBI. Or if the DEA sees somebody with a stolen gun, they can't go, sorry, I'm DEA, not ATF. You're going to have to. You realize how retarded that argument is. And these people are like elected public officials. They're supposed to know things. They're supposed to represent people. And what are they doing?
You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens. You don't have the, I'm not obstructing, I'm standing right here in the hallway. I asked to see the judicial warrant. By asking for a judicial warrant?
And I'm going to say this right now. If Pam Bondi does not indict this guy for impeding and assaulting the officers, then they're all losers and they deserve whatever, because you cannot. Same thing with the senator. That senator needs to be indicted for assaulting the Secret Service agents that he attacked when he was rushing the stage. After what they did to Trump and all Trump's people, after the raid they did to Roger Stone, after them grabbing Peter Navarro in the airport and shackling him with leg irons and everything in the airport, yeah, you know what? Nobody is above the law. Remember, Democrats? Nobody's above the law. It's time to pay the piper.
You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens asking for a judicial warrant. Stay back, please, stay back.
Promise we go too. Sorry. No way. I'm safe. Where are you taking him? Hello?
Since you have no authority to arrest U.S. citizens.
They have the total authority to arrest this guy who locked arms with the illegal alien and wouldn't let go and impeded them from doing the job. That's specifically in the law, impeding or interfering. He did. That's a crime. It's a felony. End of story.
Where are you taking me? And with what authority?
Why are you arresting
With what authority?
And where are you taking him? No!
Security details. Number one is going to go with him, all right? Hang on, where's number one? Hold on. Brett, number one right here. All right?
And this is, they should not have let anybody go with them. His number one is going to go with them. No, nobody goes with them. That's not how it works. He doesn't get special treatment. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm ranting about this stuff. It just really bothers me because none of us would get this special treatment. None of us. A more dangerous myth, because it emboldens unlawful interference, is the idea that ICE officers cannot arrest citizens who obstruct enforcement. Oh, what do you know? Jim was right. In truth, 18 U.S.C. 111 makes it a federal felony to forcibly assault, resist, oppose, or impede a federal officer in performance of their duties. What does impede mean? It means to keep them from doing it. So, standing in front of their car and stopping them from leaving, that's impeding. Grabbing a guy and not letting him take him, stopping, pushing, touching, any of that stuff. his plus one probably had to carry his purse with his money all tap on. I don't think they said his plus one. They said his number one. So it's because he's special, because he's a politician, which is weird because he's just a city comptroller. It's not like he's a governor or something. What does he have what does he have his number one guy, like his number one guy, his right hand man, kind of sounds like that, like the Joker from you're my number one. Yep, grabbing a guy is a crime in and of itself. I know, semantics, but his plus one would mean like if he was going on a date, or like if he had a dinner invitation or something. So citizens who lay hands on ICE agents, block their path, or facilitate the escape of a detainee can be and often are arrested. This is not theoretical. In 2025, the New York City Comptroller Brad Landers physically interposed himself between ICE agents and a deportation target. He was arrested for obstruction. Similarly, New York Mayor Ross Baraka was detained after entering a secure ICE facility during a protest and refusing to comply with federal orders. Even federal judges, like Wisconsin's Hannah Dugan, have faced indictment for lawfully aiding an alien's escape. Oh, you were making a joke. I'm sorry, Darth Kitty. Okay. I screwed up the joke. My bad. I don't, I don't agree that they dropped the charges against Mayor Baraka, but I know why they did it, because he's running for governor, and there's a good chance that this guy, Jack something or other, Cavarelli, something like that, that's running Republican, he might be able to win New Jersey. So they didn't want this guy to be able to run on being a target of the Trump administration and to be able to use it as a boogeyman. So they dropped the charges against him, which is, I don't know, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I don't think you should be making, but I don't know. But that's why they dropped the charge. And it was just a trespassing charge anyway. It was a misdemeanor. But, like the congresswoman who was elbowing and pushing and hitting people, they better not drop the charge on her. She's been indicted now by a grand jury. She needs to go to trial or plead guilty, one of the two. That's it. So, yeah. The law is clear. Interfering with ICE operations is a crime. That Democrat politicians are willing to risk arrest to play to the camera only underscores the theatrical nature of this resistance. It is pretty theatrical. Another oft-repeated myth is that ICE agents cannot arrest illegal aliens inside courthouses or other state facilities. This is patently false. ICE has explicit authority to conduct arrests in public spaces, including state courthouses, provided they do not disrupt official proceedings or enter non-public areas without permission. ICE Directive 11-702-1, issued in 2018, details procedures for courthouse enforcement. Agents generally avoid making arrests inside courtrooms, but public lobbies, hallways, and exits are fair game. The policy was upheld in federal court, and attempts by states to block ICE presence in public courthouses has been rejected under the Supremacy Clause. States may not create sanctuary zones immune from federal law. They've tried. They really tried. I mean, you've got this, like the mayor of LA saying it's a sanctuary city. You've got the governor of California. You got the governor of New York saying it's a sanctuary state, and we're going to do this, and we're going to provide sanctuary. So, I mean, at some point, I'd like to see charges brought against these politicians saying they're directly violating federal law. They're directly, they're directly aiding the evasion of federal law. Perhaps the most common myth is that ICE agents need a judicial warrant to make an arrest. This claim, repeated ad nauseum by activist lawyers and opportunistic officials, is legally indefensible. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, ICE officers are empowered to arrest aliens based on administrative warrants issued by DHS supervisors. These are not judicial warrants because immigration enforcement is a civil process, not a criminal one. Yes, it is a civil process simply because they removed it from the federal courts and put it into these administrative courts for ease and speed. It's still a crime, though, and it's still a federal court. I mean, it's just that because it's not. I don't agree with it saying it's a civil process. It's an administrative process. It's not civil. It's still criminal. I don't like their wording on that. I don't. The Supreme Court has consistently affirmed this distinction. Administrative warrants, such as from ICE Form 1200 or 1205, authorize the arrest and removal of removable aliens. Demanding a judicial warrant misunderstands the legal structure of immigration enforcement. There is no constitutional requirement that civil arrests be backed by a judge. And if there were, virtually all immigration enforcement would cease to function, which that's what they want. They want it to cease to function. They want all of them to stay. They need them to stay. They need them here for the census so that they can get the extra House seats, the extra electoral votes. I mean, if the country would look like a very different place if illegal aliens were not counted in the census or they weren't here. Very different place. This country would be extremely different. Then there is the claim that federal troops, including National Guards or Marines, cannot be used to protect federal buildings or enforce federal law. This is false, both legally and historically. You know, there is an operation that Eisenhower enacted in the 50s to get rid of, there was estimated at that time 500,000 or 550,000, something like that, illegal aliens in the country. Eisenhower rounded them all up in 2 months. It was called Operation Wet. Well, it's a slur now, but it had a name. I'm not going to say it. And you can Google it, and you can. But the way he was able to do that, to round up every one of them and deport them in 2 months without this vast, Customs and Border Patrol, without, ICE, immigration services. This was actually prior to the Immigration and Nationalization, INA, if I'm not mistaken. It was before that Immigration and Naturalization Act, I think, passed in the 60s. So, but he was able to do it. He used the military. That's what he used, the military. The military went and rounded them up and shipped them out. Look it up. This is false, both legally and historically. While the Posse Comitatus Act does restrict the use of active duty military for domestic law enforcement, it contains exceptions, and it does not apply to federalized National Guard units operating under Title X authority. President Trump has not invoked the Insurrection Act at this stage. Instead, he has deployed troops under existing Title X statutory authority, specifically for the purpose of protecting federal personnel and facilities during the national security operations and enforcement actions. Yeah, because they were burning buildings down and getting crazy, and he doesn't want to see it happen again. This allows guards and Marines units to assist in protective capacity, guarding buildings, escorting federal agents, and maintaining perimeter security. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to block streets and kind of keep the vehicles from passing, you have the Marines or the guard go and open the street up and create basically an escape route for them to get out of there. So long as they do not engage in law enforcement activities like arrests unless separately authorized. I saw some weird stuff too. There was this whole thing where it was some senator, I think, was demanding peace acts. Said, "Did you authorize the military to use lethal force? Did you give the order? Did you give the order for lethal force?" And he's like, "You better stop reading books, and what you see is not, believable." Because no, they're not authorized to just start shooting people, but I'm pretty sure they're authorized to defend themselves. If people start shooting at them, they can shoot back. I mean, that's just. Yeah, no, I know about the Sheila, I know about the military-industrial complex. That's more about the people building the bombs and everything, all the companies, the vast companies. than it is the actual military and what he used the military for. To like there's really nothing wrong with using your military to get people that shouldn't be in your country out of the country. I mean, isn't that the job of the military, is to keep people out of your country that aren't supposed to be there? Right? I mean, that's definitely what your military should be doing, is like stopping people from coming into your country. Like I'm a big supporter of this whole thing they did with the Roosevelt Reservation on the southern border where they activated this thing that was put in place during World War II to keep troops on the border just in case to prevent an invasion. And so like several miles, the whole stretch is now owned by the military, and it's basically a military base under federal law. And so anybody who comes through there is invading a base and can be arrested immediately. This practice aligns with the precedent and is consistent with the use of federal forces to defend federal interests during prior emergencies. In 2025, Trump utilized this authority to shield ICE officers and infrastructure in cities where violent demonstrations threatened operational continuity. There is no legal barrier to deploying these forces for defensive purposes, and their presence is explicitly contemplated in federal law governing the protection of federal assets. Let's see. I'm going to just check and see if Joe is still. Joe is still streaming. He went 4 hours. He lied. He totally lied to me. Oh, well. Joe is a big fat liar. Yeah, here's the here's the grand jury. So this is video of that LaMonica MacGyver who was elbowing and stuff. There she is in red. I don't know if you saw that. You can see her throwing elbows and hit it. I mean, that's worse than January 6th, in my opinion. I didn't see anybody doing that stuff January 6th, the videos I saw. Just saying. Yeah, life is indifferent. Joe said he was landing his plane 2 hours ago. And I said, well, I'll cover the news of the day because I send Joe every day all these links for stuff to cover. And since he didn't cover any of them, I thought, well, I didn't want to just not have anybody know about any of the stuff today. So I wanted to cover it a little bit. So I figured I would do a show. But I'm happy that you people are here. I really appreciate you people coming. I'm grateful that people would actually sit here and listen to my rambling and talking nonsense. I try my best to be as honest as I can and to not be biased. It's almost impossible to not be biased because I have opinions and I don't like things that are happening, and I'm going to say when I don't like it. But I never judge a person without talking to them and to getting to know their opinions, and I don't just assume anything about anybody. I'm SB Farmer. I'm thinking maybe Fridays and Saturdays I might go earlier, maybe 9 or 10 instead of 11. Sunday, the only reason I go at 11 on Sundays is simply because I watch a show that a guy that I've been watching for years, and he's on a radio on Sunday nights now to 11. So I listen to his radio show, and I don't know. So that's why I wait till 11. That's all. Maybe I'm an old man, and I should just go earlier. But. This woman telling her, I got you, I'm going to protect you. No, she should have been handcuffed and thrown to the ground and dragged away in handcuffs. If any of you did what this lady did, it doesn't matter. You would have been dragged away in cuffs. Yes, Aunt. I enjoyed the early show today too, Sheila Marie. The problem was I didn't eat anything for breakfast, and then I started that stream because my grandkids had left to go to the park for a while, so I was like, I could stream for a little while. So I was a little dizzy, and then I was like seeing weird stuff. Like the screen was getting weird, and I'm like, oh, I didn't eat. I'm probably low blood sugar or whatever, and so I had to end the show because it was going to be a problem. I was so that's why. But I'm going to try to do some. I'm going to try and do some stuff during the day if I could squeeze an hour or two in during the day to talk about some things because, why not? Maybe there's people that like to watch during the day that can come by. Maybe there's people that want to watch at night. I don't know. I'm just, doing the best I can and see what happens. Now, I'm going to say this is what you call like, this is privilege. This is privilege. She's privileged to think she could get away with this stuff. And I'm going to file a complaint. Like, that's what you call privilege, that she can scream and do these things and then get someone to come along and say, I got you. Don't worry. I got you. No. I got you should have been, that person, that agent who says that and did that and took her side over the agents that were getting attacked needs to be fired immediately because she's not doing her job. You don't show favoritism to anyone. That's not how this works. That's not the way it is. Even more brazen is the claim that members of Congress may enter ICE facilities at any time without notice or clearance. Yeah, they're doing this all the time. They just show up and we're going to come in. I just want to point out that for 9 months after January 6th, when they started arresting people in the DC jail, they didn't let any Congress people in to check on them. They were keeping people in solitary confinement, sleeping on the concrete floor. They were getting beaten and everything else and tortured, basically. They would not allow any Congress people in to see what was going on for oversight. But this, they could just go wherever, anytime. They just show up. It's like, we're here for oversight. Let us in. No, they're supposed to schedule it 24 hours in advance and say they're coming and get arrangements made because they are jails. They just don't go stomping around wherever. Did they go to the federal prisons, the regular federal prisons like this? No. Just these for some reason, Democrats love illegal aliens. They're going to do everything in their power to protect them. While members of Congress have oversight authority, that authority does not exempt them from basic security protocols. The Department of Homeland Security Appropriations Act of 2024 affirms the right of congressional visit, but also allows ICE to deny or delay entry in an event of an emergency or disruption. What is truly outrageous is the behavior of those who show up not with questions, but with cameras, signage, protest mobs, and media crews in tow. In Newark, a member of Congress led a group of anti-ICE agitators to the facility gates under the guise of oversight. In the ensuing chaos, and as ICE personnel were forced to manage the disruptive crowd, 4 detainees escaped. This is not oversight. This is performative incitement. And it undermines both safety and the rule of law. Members of Congress who generally wish to inspect ICE facilities need only make an appointment and arrive without a mob. That such basic protocol is scorned in favor of spectacle reveals the true aim, not accountability, but provocation. Yeah, this is the other guy, the clown.
Tried to insert into the city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Hands up. Also,
see, now, what he just did, he was yelling and approaching, and they grabbed him to push him away. He didn't say he was a senator. He didn't do anything, but he's pushing back on them. That's assaulting an officer. That's resisting. He should go to jail. That's it. If you did that, you would go to jail. There would be no arguing. There would be no, I was just asking questions. That's not going to work for any of us. And being a senator does not give him any more rights than it gives any of us. They seem to think it does, but it doesn't.
So I want to talk.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact.
And you just all saw that he lied, and all the Democrats lied when they said he came and announced who he was right away and just wanted to ask questions. And yes, that is him. Another one. Strange. There's a lot of them in the Democratic Party. Yeah, they are. They're signaling to their Antifa base, and letting them know what to do, and that they've got their backs, which is ridiculous. It is. Antifa has killed a lot of people, and they don't seem to want to acknowledge that.
A half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically.
Ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you get on my hands, go ahead. Behind my back. All right.
Cool. Ankle in hand. Lay.
That was kind of a dick move. Tell him to put his hand behind his back and then pushing him down so they would hit the ground. But cops can be dicks.
Flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
Recording loud out here.
Tried to insert
Secretary, I want to know why you insist
so I want to say thank you.
All right. Those are playing. What do you know? And Joe didn't even send his chat over here, did he? He didn't even raid me. Big jerk. Big jerkety jerk. We must return to first principles. The Constitution provides for a federal government with supremacy in matters of immigration and national security. Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act. Presidents from both parties have enforced it. The law empowers ICE to enforce immigration orders with administrative warrants, to conduct arrests in public, to detain obstructors, and to operate in public facilities. It empowers the president, when necessary, to use military force to protect federal functions. Every one of these powers has been exercised before, and yet a coordinated campaign now seeks to deny all of this. Democrat politicians, many of them attorneys, amplify falsehoods that ICE needs a judicial warrant, that agents cannot arrest obstructors, that troops may not defend federal sites. These are not errors of ignorance, but deliberate fabrications designed to sow chaos and incite resistance. Worse still, the legacy media has become the willing accomplice in this campaign. Repeated these falsehoods verbatim without correction, broadcasting lies that they know to be false under the guise of reporting. This is not journalism, it's propaganda. The purpose is not legal reform, it's to delegitimize the law, confuse the public, and embolden unlawful resistance. The more often the lie is repeated, the more it's believed. And these lies now circulate with such force that they put officers in harm's way and they invite the public to commit crimes. This cannot stand. The federal government is not optional. Immigration law is not nullified by a hashtag. Those who enforce it are not villains. And the public servants doing what the law commands. If Democrat politicians wish to change the law, they have the tools: debate, vote, legislate. But that is not what they are doing. They are staging conflict, knowing full well that the law they pretend to oppose is valid, and they are still inviting the public to join them in breaking it. That is not resistance, it's subversion. I would say it's borderline, I would say it's borderline rebellion. Okay, I'll debate. What do you want to talk about, Greg? What you want to talk about? What you want to talk about? Anyone? Anyway, okay. Next story. Moving on. Next story. Same kind of pattern, but next story is the special agent in charge of IRS criminal investigation vows to trace the funding. Vows to trace the funding sources for the leftist violent protests and riots. Through large networks of NGOs, nonprofits, and individuals, the left and far left have developed money laundering schemes. So this is where they need to follow the money. Follow the money. The money. It's all going exactly as I planned. Hey, that's that guy, George Soros. Oh, you're going to bed, Pat? Okay. Sorry to hear. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow or the next day. So let's see. We'll read this article. IRS vows to trace money and disrupt any financial networks funding Los Angeles anti-ICE riots. This guy, whoever this guy, the LA U.S. attorney, his name is Elysium or something like that. Alessia. He's been doing great stuff, man. He's been going around, and what they did to get around to get around the subversion and the problems that the state of California and the cities have been causing for enforcement of immigration. What they've done is they've gone through all the jail records, and then they locate anyone who was previously deported. Because if you re-enter after being previously deported, it's an automatic felony punishable by 10 years in prison. So they find the people, then they go and they indict them and get an actual arrest warrant for the felony. Then they present it and they go, yeah, okay, now you have to give us this person because we have a, and basically, and then so now like California and other people are trying to, they'll say, well, we're going to try to make the prison records private so no one can find out who's in prison, but they can't because they have to tell people who's in prison. Make no mistake, we'll identify and disrupt financial networks supporting these criminal activities, said Tyler Hatcher, special agent in charge of the IRS Criminal Division for Los Angeles. Federal authorities in Los Angeles are seeking information regarding any individuals or organizations that may be funding the ongoing anti-ICE riots in the city of Angels. Tyler Hatcher, special agent in charge of the IRS Criminal Division of Los Angeles, said on Tuesday the agency is actively tracing money and vowed to disrupt any financial network supporting the criminal rioting, which has desecrated several blocks of Los Angeles since June 6th. Is it really Trump going after political opponents by just enforcing the law? I mean, nobody's above the law. If they're going and assaulting agents or doing things, to not go after them would be to be giving them preferential treatment because they're political opponents. So that's seems odd. Oh, okay. Never mind. My bad. Hatcher made the announcement during a joint press conference with Bill Asalee, I think his name is, U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, and Akil Davis, Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office. Special Agent in charge, IRS Criminal Division, Tyler Hatcher. We are currently tracing money to determine who's providing funding for these riots.
Hello, I'm Bill Asalee, United States Attorney for the Central District of California.
And I'm Akil Davis, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office.
And I'm Tyler Hatcher, the Special Agent in charge of IRS Criminal Investigation here in Los Angeles.
The right to assemble.
Greg McNeely says he's former Portlandian law enforcement here. They have been rioting ICE for decades. So are they supposed to just let them continue? I mean, the stuff that was happening back in 2020 at those facilities, and the fire, throwing the bombs and the stuff at the federal buildings and the different stuff. I mean, at some point, daddy's got to say enough, and someone's got to get a spanking and a timeout, I mean, you can't just, if you continue to let them do things, this lawlessness, they become more emboldened and they go further and do more things. I mean, we've had instances of people being shot. Like that guy, whatever, I can't remember the name of where there was that whole thing where the guy shot the people and then the marshals went and he got killed. So it looked very sus, the whole thing, but it can't keep going on.
Assemble and protest peacefully is protected by law. Unfortunately, we've seen individuals whose intentions are to cause damage and to assault law enforcement. For example, last week we arrested an individual who was charged with conspiracy to commit and aiding and abetting civil disorders. These violent agitators put peaceful demonstrators at risk.
The FBI and our federal partners will continue to investigate individuals and organizations who are knowingly funding, or committing acts of violence against law enforcement, as well as the destruction of property.
We are currently tracing money to determine who is providing funding for these riots. Funding crime doesn't just affect the criminals, it also disrupts entire communities. Each dollar funneled into illegal...
Okay, I will say they're going to have a problem with this because unless you can prove that the money they were giving was specifically to aid the riots as opposed to just help people peacefully protest and exercise their First Amendment rights, I think you're going to have some issues because just like even honestly, even that guy, the guy that they arrested for giving the masks, I don't know that they're going to be able to prove that was in. I like these guys too, but I don't know if they're going to be able to prove that the guy giving the masks out was actually enabling a riot, or was he just making it so that people wouldn't get harmed by the spray? But I guess you could say that there would be no reason for them to get pepper sprayed if they weren't breaking the law. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Well, when they trace it back to the feds and the U.S. government, I think then we have some explaining. There's going to be some explaining that needs to happen. When they find out that there's Ray Epps and stuff going on, that they're going to have to,
Operations fuels violence, undermines law and order, and perpetuates fear. Make no mistake, we will identify and disrupt financial networks supporting these criminal activities.
Think before you act. The legal consequences for financing or aiding and abetting these crimes are harsh. They include imprisonment and fines.
If you have any information regarding individuals and/or organizations providing financial support to commit acts of violence or destruction of property, please dial 1-800-CALL-FBI or visit tips.fbi.gov. You can also upload your images and videos to fbi.gov/LA officer assault.
The United States government will continue to safeguard constitutionally protected rights, but we will not tolerate assaults on law enforcement, destruction of property, or any violent acts that puts the community in harm's way.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it says we are currently tracing money to find out who's funding the riots. Civil unrest has plagued Los Angeles since anti-ICE riots kicked off earlier this month, resulting in President Trump federalizing the state's National Guard and ordering the deployment of U.S. Marines to protect federal police and buildings and assist in reestablishing law and order. U.S. Attorney Saley vowed to prosecute anyone who may be funding the riots, saying harsh penalties such as imprisonment are in order. The right to assemble and protest peacefully is protected by law. Unfortunately, we've seen individuals whose intentions are to cause damage and assault law enforcement. These violent agitators put peaceful demonstrators at risk, which I agree. Anybody getting violent, is stopping, the people that want to just say their piece and protest peacefully. Problem is, I think you have a bunch of useful idiots that don't realize that there's an organized group of people that are there to do things just to shield the violent people, and they do what's called a diversity in tactics or diversity of tactics, where they have some people that are going to, they have unstable people that are going to commit violent acts and commit damages and stuff. And, you can always tell when the people are all dressed in black and then they're attacking people that have cameras and they don't want people filming things. Those are the people that they really have to, watch out for. And, they should be actually, they need to get better at identifying the coordinators, the marshals that they call it, that are directing people. And those are the people they need to target to take out. And by take out, I mean arrest, to grab them and to stop, because that's who's providing the funding. That's who's directing the people, telling them where to go, giving them directions on who to call. And honestly, I think they need to really look into that, the Lawyers Guild or whatever it is, that the green-hatted people that are, because they're involved. They're involved. They're giving directions and they're assisting. There's a line for an attorney that when you participate in the conspiracy or in the crime, you are no longer acting as an advocate or a legal advocate. You are now acting as a conspirator, and you're just as guilty of the crime. So, despite the unrest and threats of violence, ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons and Border Czar Tom Holman stated unequivocally that ICE will not be deterred from carrying out immigration enforcement operations, and that large-scale raids would continue across the country, including in sanctuary cities. Yeah, I mean, the reason they are doing it in the sanctuary cities is because that's where all the illegals are at. They're being hidden there. So, you don't go fishing at a, you go fishing where the fish are, Akil Davis, assistant director in charge of the FBI Los Angeles, asked the community to submit tips on any individuals or organizations that may be providing financial support or committing acts of violence or destruction of property. So I think this is good news. I like to see this. I would like to see more arrests being made. Like people that are actually providing the monies. Those people need to. Those people need to be stopped. I'm just closing some tabs real quick here. But I have the big story of the day that everybody wants, that everybody was waiting for, that I was trying to hold back until we got raided by Joe, but for whatever reason, he don't like me anymore, so he didn't send all his 700 viewers here. Because he didn't want them to know the truth. That it turns out that the DNC was entirely funded by USAID. The DNC is in chaos and desperate for cash. Under its new leader, Ken Martin, the Democratic National Committee has been plagued by infighting and a drop in big donations, raising alarms from Democrats as they try to win back power. Just in, the Democrat National Committee may now need to borrow money to pay its bills because it's so broke. Says Grok, explain this like Ron Burgundy. Stay classy, X. I'm Ron Burgundy, and here's the scoop. The Democratic National Committee is in a financial pickle, folks. Reports say they're so strapped for cash, they're talking about taking out loans to pay the bills. Major donors are ghosting them, and internal squabbles, think high school drama, are making things worse. They're betting big on a 50-state strategy, sending millions to state parties, but it's draining the bank. With only $18 million in cash compared to the RNC's $67 million, it's a rough scene. Will they bounce back? That's the news, and I'm Ron Burgundy. Go get them, Democrats. No, I'd say stay classy, Republicans. Something. I don't know. Let's see here. So here is... Oh, man. One second. One second, I had to subscribe to the damn New York Times to see this article. Hold on. Jesus, what is going on? Why is this doing this to me? Here we go. Finally. Oh my God. I'm sorry about that. I had to subscribe to the damn New York Times to do this. It wouldn't let me in. All right. So DNC is in chaos and desperate for cash. Under its new leader, Ken Martin, the Democratic National Committee has been plagued by infighting and a drop in big donations, raising alarms for the Democrats as they try to win back power. Send this story to a friend. No, that's okay. Because I can give 10 articles away for free. As Democrats are locked out of power in Washington, the party's new chairman, Ken Martin, has confronted the internal battles and in early months in his tenure. Just months into his tenure of a new party leader, Ken Martin, the Democratic National Committee's financial situation has grown so bleak that top officials have discussed whether they might need to borrow money this year to keep paying the bills. Fundraising for major donors, some of whom Mr. Martin has still not spoken with, has slowed sharply. At the same time, he has expanded the party's financial commitments to every state and even to far-flung territories like Guam. Oh, thanks. What TF? Thanks. Anyone here, please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. That would be great. I'd really appreciate it. At the same time, okay, so fellow Democrats are grumbling that Mr. Martin, who quietly accepted a raise after taking the post, has been badly distracted by internal battles. So far, they say he's been unable to help unite his party against Republicans who control the federal government. Well, yeah, they do control the federal government, but it seems the Democrats control the courts, doesn't it? With all this has been like a lot of this stuff been happening. A protracted and public fight with David Hogg, the 25-year-old activist turned DNC vice chair who blindsided party officials with a plan to challenge incumbent Democrats, made things worse. The clash included the leak of embarrassing audio of Mr. Martin questioning his own role and ended in Mr. Hogg's unceremonious exit this month. Yeah, that was funny that they booted him out. But supposedly he did a bunch of shady stuff and stole email contact lists and trying to get people to donate to him. And wait, what happened? Spaceship 33. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. There was a spaceship that exploded, or am I missing something? That was soon followed by the news that two of the country's most influential labor leaders, who represent a combined 3.2 million workers, were also leaving the DNC. Both questioned the party's direction under Mr. Martin. So it seems maybe like people are trying to pressure some people to make changes. Maybe they're not happy with Martin at the helm because he's a cis white male. I mean, that's possible. Rufus Guilford, who served as the financial chairman of Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign and maintains relationship with many top donors, suggests Democrats were being sent the wrong message at a time when they were desperately looking for fight and leadership. What they're seeing is headline after headline of incompetence and infighting, and I think this is a real problem, not just for the DNC, but for the larger Democratic brand. We need to come together and focus on issues at hand. That's got to happen now, and I mean today. And if that can't happen, we need to shift course. This account of Mr. Martin's tumultuous early tenure is based on interviews with more than 24 Democratic lawmakers, donors, strategists, and DNC members and party officials. Yeah, so it sounds like okay, was that a Starlink, or I mean not Starlink, was that a SpaceX, or was that a different company, or was it a different country? Worse than some high school student council drama. Well, what would they expect when they were bringing people in that basically are, stunted high school kids like David Hogg? David Hogg, the 25-year-old activist who became DNC vice chair, blindsided party officials with a plan to challenge incumbent Democrats. He ultimately exited party leadership. Part of the bumpy beginnings appeared to be fallout from a bare-knuckle fight for the chairmanship, with the spoils going to the winner as usual. Mr. Martin has pushed to install allies in some key posts and removed supporters of his vanquished rivals. Some of the changes will leave people feeling as if they don't have a seat at the table, said Donna Brazile, who is very famous, Donna Brazile, for being the person who leaked questions to Hillary Clinton during the primary against Bernie Sanders and basically helped swing steal the nomination in 2016 for Bernie Sanders. Just saying. So keep that in mind. And the fact that she's still talked to and people don't, but she's still allowed in, polite society and not shunned and because of, what she did. It says she did not endorse a candidate or vote in the race for chair. He has his own inner circle. I'm not in it, and I don't want to be in it. Oh, is it because he's white? Just saying. Never know. She seems kind of racist. It has not been lost in some Democrats that Mr. Martin arrived at the DNC as the consummate insider, a man who has led both the state party in Minnesota and the Association of State Party Chairs. Oh, he's from Minnesota? Oh. So does that mean that maybe Tim Walz has more power in the DNC than people realize? If he was able to get a Minnesota guy to be the head of the stuff, maybe they plan on Tim Walz running for president 20. Oh my God, that'll be funny. Oh my God. Mr. Martin has offered to keep the two top union leaders, Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, and Lee Saunders, the president of American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, as members of the DNC, but he would not renew their plum assignments on the powerful Rules and Bylaws Committee, which controls how the party nominates its presidential candidates. You know, the fact that these union leaders are also on these DNC boards and this stuff should trouble everyone, because basically the DNC is who controls a lot of city politics in all the cities around the world, the country, and that's who decides what pays most of these people is cities and states and stuff, and even the federal government. But still, it seems very, very shady to me. Like, I was never a big fan of public sector unions for these government employees, because it just seems like they get power, and then it's just like this rotating thing where the money is going out to pay the union members their salaries, which then comes back into the politicians through donations, and then the union leaders always end up with jobs with some committees in Washington or different things, and it's this whole big, just basically circular exchange of money that just seems wrong. And, oh. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but I will say Nick Rekieta has been invited to come on my show numerous times. He keeps saying he's going to show up, and he never does. So to me, that just means he's dishonest. No. Someday he'll make it here when I get big enough, he said. I'm just not. I don't have a big enough and powerful enough show. I'm not as good as the Steel Toe show, so I won't ever be able to get him. The Hog episode also consumed and exasperated party leaders for close to 2 months. This is worse than some high school student council drama, said Representative Mark Pocon, a West Wisconsin Democrat. In an interview on Tuesday, Mr. Martin acknowledged that his early efforts to rebuild the party had been overshadowed by some of the inside baseball stuff, but he said he was bringing about meaningful change, according to increased investment in all 57 state parties, including the territories and Washington, D.C. He also noted that the DNC was helping organize more than 100 town halls in the Republican districts, carrying out an extensive 2024 postmortem and creating a war room to counter President Trump. That's interesting. A war room to counter President Trump. Very, very interesting. I wonder how that's going to work out. Be quiet, doggy. I hear you. I just lost my place. Sorry about that. I know there are a lot of people that are carrying grudges that are still litigating the campaign that their person didn't win, Mr. Martin said. I am not one of those people. There's no sense of living in the past. I have no enemies other than Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Oh, so he's just straight up saying that Donald Trump is his enemy and the Republican Party is his enemy. So I guess that whole thing about being more cordial and not, being like the whole enemy, like you're my enemy. And what do you do to your enemy? You fight your enemy. You destroy your enemy. So, a party low on money. The party had about $18 million on hand entering May, compared with $67.4 million for the Republican National Committee. The biggest challenge facing Mr. Martin may now be financial. 6 people briefed on the party fundraising who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss its finances frankly, said big donors who are an essential part of the party's funding had been very slow to give to the party this year as Mr. Martin solicits contributions. I thought there was a lot of stuff going on. I think personally that some of the problems are the investigations into Act Blue, the smurfing, and all the donations that seem to be fraud that are being looked at now. Maybe they're pulling back on some of that. His commitment to state parties, which amounts to $1 million in monthly spending, has further strained the finances. Senior DNC officials have discussed the possibility of borrowing money in the coming months to keep the operations fully funded, according to two people with direct knowledge of the private discussions who insisted on anonymity. How does somebody borrow money when they don't actually have any income, and the money they're going to make all has to comes from donations? I mean, how do they have any? Who's going to underwrite it? Who's going to sign off on it? How do they get a loan? Seems like more money laundering. It's certainly not our plan right now, he said, of tapping into lines of credit, adding, I don't know if we'd have to do it at this point. He noted that grassroots fundraising has remained strong, and the party said small donations in the first 3 months were the most under a new chairman. So Act Blue is still doing their thing then. Still, the party's total cash reserves shrank by $4 million from January through April, according to the most recent federal records, while the Republican National Committee's coffers swelled by roughly $29 million. A new report is due this week. The party out of power often falls behind the one holding the White House. Still, the current financial gap is large. $18 million on hand for the DNC entering May compared to $67 million for the RNC. Hefty chunks sit in special accounts that cannot be used for operational costs. In the first 4 months of the year, only 3 people gave $100,000 or more to the DNC, according to the Federal Election Commission. Isn't there a limit on how much you can give, or is that not? Is that only for specific candidates or something? The party said it received 3 more 6-figure donations in May and June from individuals. Almost no one questions Mr. Martin's work ethics. He has traveled to 24 states as chairman and has energetically sought out money from donors, including this week in New York, just days after 2 friends were assassinated in Minnesota. Everything that Ken has done, regardless of the drama that it has caused, has been the right moves, said Maria Cardona, a longtime DNC member. He does the work. He rolls up the sleeves. She and other allies noted that Democrats have won recent down ballot and special elections, with Mr. Martin campaigning in person in several. Mr. Martin said he had found that major donors were unhappy across the Democratic ecosystem after last year's defeats. He has commissioned a significant post-mortem review of the 2024 race, which is being overseen by Paul Rivera, a longtime Democrat strategist, and is set to entail as many as 200 interviews. A final report is expected in the end of summer. I think what people are pissed about is the money they wasted. They paid huge stars money to appear for Kamala. They were paying people and bussing people in all over the place to make it look like she had way more support than she did. And so I think that's the problem, is they wasted tons of money. I mean, they built a whole set for that Who's Your Daddy podcast, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Didn't they pay Beyonce millions or several $1 million? People invested more money than they ever had before. They dug deeper than they ever had, and they are quite frustrated by the result, Mr. Martin said of big donors. They want answers. I don't take it personally. I wasn't in charge. One recent New York event with Ms. Harris did not bring in as much money as some had hoped, raising roughly $300,000, according to the people briefed on the matter, who insisted on anonymity to protect relationships. The sum was a fraction of the $1 million price for a single top-end ticket to a New York fundraiser headlined by Ms. Harris last fall when she was the nominee. Even as the party faces a financial crunch, the DNC increased Mr. Martin's salary this year. Federal records show that the party confirmed his annual salary is now $350,000, up from $300,000. Mr. Martin said in an interview that his salary has been set by a compensation committee within the party. It says there's a picture of him. It says during the race for DNC chair, Mr. Martin attacked his chief rival for his ties to some of the party's biggest donors. Shortly after he won, he said the onus was on donors to make amends. Nothing fractured the party quite like Mr. Hogg's surprise decision to wade into Democratic primaries to try and oust incumbents. He and Mr. Martin feuded privately and publicly until Mr. Hogg's ultimate departure. At one point, Mr. Martin directly called a lawyer, Graham Wilson, who works at the firm of the Democratic super lawyer Mark Elias, to express dismay that the firm was also working for Leaders We Deserve, Mr. Hogg's political action committee. The firm subsequently dropped Leaders We Deserved as a client according to two people briefed on the matter who insisted on anonymity to discuss private conversations. A DNC spokeswoman said Mr. Martin has never instructed the law firm to end its relationship with Mr. Hogg's PAC. Well, they probably said it was a conflict of interest, and Yeah, it's probably, because you can't. Yeah, and who they make? David Hogg came in and dropped a nuclear bomb on the place, said David Skoufis, a Democratic state senator in New York, and Martin Alley, who was recently installed on the party's executive committee. It's everyone's hope and expectation that the drama will be behind us. We'll see. One challenge for Mr. Martin is wooing big contributors is that during the race for DNC chair, his campaign criticized his chief rival, Ben Wickler, the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, for its ties to some of the party's largest donors, such as the billionaire Reid Hoffman and Alex Soros. Shortly after Mr. Martin won, he told the New York Times that the onus would be on the donors to mend any fences. Mr. Soros has not heard from Mr. Martin since then, according to a spokesman for the billionaire. Mr. Martin said that he had tried to contact with Mr. Hoffman, but had not had a chance to reach out to Alex yet. He added that new initiatives had begun, including a war room to press the party's message and the state investments. They would pay long dividends. Another early Martin project is a new streaming show on YouTube, The Daily Blueprint, which is filmed in a studio with high-end production. Wow. So they should have just hired the Young Turks. I mean, the Young Turks has already got a good audience, and they're very left-wing. I guess maybe the Young Turks probably are more aligned with David Hogg than with the DNC. Whatever. The show has drawn a minuscule audience so far, with some episodes scoring fewer than 1,000 views. Holy crap. I've had shows that get more than 1,000 views. That's crazy. So that's that article. So let's see. Oh, this is just the New York Times front page. Let's see what it says. Trump, Iran, and the specter of Iraq. We all brought the happy talk. U.S. strikes on Iran would bring risk to everyone. Israel strikes have killed hundreds of civilians across Iran. Israel says Iranian missile strikes major hospital. Seems like a crazy stuff. I don't see. It's possible. I think Lindy was what they call a bundler. She bundled up people's money. So it's possible she took some money away. Or who knows? Who knows what she's up to? I don't trust her. I don't. Yeah, see, look at this. Social Security finances erode further, risking benefit cuts in 8 years. Supreme Court upholds Tennessee ban on transgender care for minors. Yeah, it's a good win. Sotomayor was crying about it. Okay, my dog is starting to make noise. So, I don't know. Let's see. So here we go. So here's another story about this chaos at the DNC from whoever this is, Tegan Goddard's Political Wire. Inside the chaos swirling throughout the DNC, just months into his tenure. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to take my dog out real quick, so I'm going to play something, a short video, and I'll be right back. That's the best I could do, I think, to take my dog out. So let's see here. What can I add? Was that video file? Let me see here. I will play a short little video and thumbnails. Let's see here. Yeah, I hear you, dog. There we go. Oh, here we go. This is a short video. I'll play this. And I'll be back. Yeah, it was a unanimous decision coming out of the Supreme Court. 9-0. No. It says the unanimous Supreme Court made it easier Tuesday to bring lawsuits over so-called reverse discrimination, siding with an Ohio woman who claims that she didn't get a job and then was demoted because she was straight. The justice's decision affects lawsuits in 20 states and the District of Columbia, where, until now, courts had set a higher bar when members of a majority group, including those who are white and heterosexual, sue for discrimination. So, Hello, Julio. Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the opinion. So the new Supreme Court justice, the one that Biden put in, that doesn't know what a woman is, said she's not a biologist. At least she can tell that discrimination is wrong. Said that civil rights law draws no distinction between members of majority and minority groups. No, I mean, it just kind of makes sense, right? By establishing the same protections for every individual without regard to that individual's membership in a minority or majority group. Congress left no room for courts to impose special requirements on majority group plaintiffs alone, Jackson wrote. The court ruled in an appeal from Marlene Ames, who worked for the Ohio Department of Youth Services for more than 20 years. So this is what even makes it worse, because I'm wondering if this is going to have any implications on, there was tons of lawsuits over the years coming from different police, people suing police departments and cities, fire departments, because they kind of did stuff that would be considered discrimination. They said, oh, what color are you? Or what, are you a part of, are you if you're female, if you're a minority, you get extra points on tests and stuff. And that's basically discrimination. It is. Says Thomas, joined by Neil Gorsuch, cited a brief filed by the American First Legal, a conservative group founded by Trump aide Stephen Miller, who's the guy that's always going hard at the left and the media. He's the bald guy, Stephen Miller, and he's he's a riot to listen to. It says to assert that American employers had long been obsessed with the. All right, I'm back. So thanks for everyone who stuck around. We'll get back to the story here. So inside the chaos swirling through the DNC, just months into the tenure of a new party leader, Ken Martin, the Democratic National Committee financial situation has grown so bleak that top officials have discussed whether they might need to borrow money this year to keep paying the bills. The New York Times reported. Fundraising from major donors, some of whom Ms. Martin has still not spoken to, has slowed sharply. At the same time, he has expanded the party's financial commitments to every state and even far-flung territories like Guam. So this is just fellow Democrats are grumbling that Mr. Martin has quietly accepted a raise after taking the post, has been badly distracted by internal battles. So far, they say, he's been unable to help unite the party against Republicans who control the federal government. No. I took my dog is she's a good dog. I just let her out. She went to the bathroom, came back in, and then went to go lay down. Yeah, that other guy is very annoying. It's starting to look like maybe, I don't know, man. Like he was pull what up? Oh, the funny meme about Trump, baby, don't hurt me. I'll look for it real quick. Hold on. Is it on X? Oh, the picture was a younger version of me? I don't think so. Let's see. Oh, this is just that's just a brief thing. So it's a brief story. So that's it. So yeah, so Democrats are running out of money. They're having trouble raising money. Hopefully, it has something to do with the problems they're having with the. Well, now my dog wants to come back in. So hold on a second. Come on, let's go. Anyway, all right. So that's that story. So then we got this other story. What's it called? You're saying there's a meme. It's on X. It's baby, don't hurt me. What? Is this it?
Happy in the U.S., if you're complaining all the time, very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now. Come back if you want. Don't come back. It's okay too. But if you're not happy, you can leave.
Huh. I don't. Oh, scrolling on Twitter is a bad idea. I just realized. Very bad idea. That might be a problem. Look up Benny, titled Elon Trump. Benny Johnson? Oh, I don't see it. I'm looking all about Benny Johnson's stuff. And Benny's videos. Media. I don't see it here. I don't see it here. It's got to be. It's not Benny Johnson's. Benny Hill? What are you guys talking about? Benny who? All right. I don't know. You got me searching for stuff here. All right. Let me get back to what I'm looking for here. All right. We're going to go back to news. Anyway, so according to Axios, Benny Johnson, I was looking for Benny Johnson. I could not find it. I mean, so it says immigrants play a crucial role in taking care of some of the most vulnerable Americans, and now they're being pushed out of the country. Wow, they're being pushed out of the country? Who's pushing them out? Does that make sense? No, that can't make sense. So let's see what it says here. The immigrants caring for the nation's elderly are losing their jobs. Oh no, they're losing their jobs. The White House immigration crackdown is hitting the long-term healthcare industry as nursing homes and care providers lose foreign-born employees and struggle to hire. So now these are more jobs. These are more jobs that they're claiming that Americans won't do, that we need foreigners to do, working in nursing homes in the medical field, because don't they make pretty decent money in the medical field? I mean, they're not like, being an orderly or something. I can't imagine it's like a super expensive, super, super. Oh my God, I've gone over 2 hours already. I didn't believe that. That's crazy. So why it matters. These folks care for the disabled in the country's fast-growing elderly population, and they're already in short supply. Advocates and policy experts warn the quality of care that people receive is under threat. I would think that they get better care from from native-born people than foreigners who could care less about them. But hey, who knows? We have facilities with empty wings, and it's not for lack of residents; it's just for lack of staff. Senior Vice President of Clinical and Regulatory Services with Leading Age Wisconsin. Wolfsburg coordinates with resettlement agencies to fill healthcare vacancies, placing refugees in jobs in housekeeping, dietary services, and other ancillary positions to keep facilities running. It's really starting to seem like that, isn't it? That it's the new slave labor, and that's maybe why the Democrats were really big fan of the slaves in the 1800s, and then now they're a real big fan of these new slaves. So, and they're fighting. They fought in the 1860s to try and protect those slaves from getting taken away, and now they're fighting to protect these slaves from getting taken away. So it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, what is happening? Oh, damn it. Damn chair went over my cord. Yeah, so we get more twerking on the. Oh, Benny Johnson posts Trump's online. Okay. Still don't see it. I still don't see it. I see the drug test and all the stuff coming out, but I don't see any video. I don't see any video. The Trump administration has suspended refugee programs, and now she's struggling to fill vacancy. By the numbers, foreign-born workers make up 30% of nursing home, housekeeping, and maintenance workforce. Wow. According to data provided by Leading Age, an association of nonprofit providers of aging services. Oh, it's all these nonprofits and NGOs, isn't it? They're always connected. And compared to, I wonder how much money they're stealing. You know, how much they're stealing, how much they're probably stealing a bunch of money, probably. And more than 41% of the health aides in the U.S. last year were foreign-born, according to unpublished data provided by Axios to the Department of Labor. 22% of nursing assistants are foreign-born, and 28% of personal care aides. I wonder if they have, are they actually trained? Do they actually know the job? Do they actually have the certificates, or is it fake stuff? Are they coming in and they really much wonder? When it comes to supporting someone with autism or someone with Alzheimer's, the relationship with the care worker is so incredibly important, says Nicole Jorwick, a chief program officer at Caring Across Generations, a nonprofit advocacy group. A beloved caregiver for an autistic man in Virginia, for example, is facing deportation over a minor crime committed years ago. Oh, well, he's got to go. He committed a crime. I don't care, you know, and his patient is struggling to adapt to life around him. Oh, well, if the autistic guy wants, he can go with him. Nursing homes have long faced worker shortages, and the situation reached crisis levels in the pandemic. Yeah, wasn't there videos of people working at these nursing homes, beating people and doing all types of stuff they shouldn't have been doing, punching people in the face? I remember seeing videos, and I was wondering, like, why does this person sound like they're not from here and they don't speak English correctly and they're beating on people? Areas with more immigrant labor were better able to weather the storm, says David Grabowski, a professor of healthcare policy at Harvard Medical School. Places with more immigrant workers also offered better care quality. Oh, so see, the immigrants are just better at everything. They're better people than us. They're better at providing everything. Does anybody really believe this crap? You know, just like the crap they say, like, oh, immigrants commit less crime than native-born people. And then you go, why? How could they do that when 15% of the population in the prisons are illegal immigrants? So how could 15% of the prison population be illegal immigrants if they commit less crime than native-born people? Are you saying that more than 15% of the population of the U.S. is legal immigrants? Because otherwise, the numbers don't jive. I mean, that's just math. That's how math works. Last Friday, Rachel Bloomberg, CEO of Toby and Leon Cooperman Sinai Residences, a senior living community in Boca Raton, Florida, learned that 10 of her employees were being deported after the White House pulled permission for them to live and work in the U.S. Oh, well, she had to fire them all, calling them to her office one by one to break the news. Yeah, sorry. Hire Americans. That's about the best I can say. It kind of felt like a funeral, she tells Axios. One person after another. It's hard to look somebody in the eye and tell them you can't work here, even though you are an amazing employee. 30 more Haitian employees are likely to get the same news on August 3rd when their temporary protected status is set to end. Okay. I don't believe this. They're obviously they're paying these people substandard wages, or there's other people getting kickbacks for hiring them, like employment temp agencies or different things that are doing this. That's the only reason this is happening. That's it. Because somebody's grafting money off of it. People are getting paid. She estimates she'll have to spend another $600,000 per year in higher wages to attract more workers. Yeah, to attract people that aren't from a foreign country that are willing to work for substandard wages. Not every facility can raise pay. Those that rely heavily on Medicaid funding might not be able to have the resources. Those places are also facing the possibility of Medicaid cuts in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. The only places that are getting Medicaid cuts are cuts to illegal aliens. That's it. That's all they're cutting. That's it. There's no shortage of American minds and hands to grow our labor force, and President Trump's agenda to modernize our workforce represents this administration's commitment to capitalizing on untapped potential while delivering on our mandate to enforce our immigration laws. I mean, the labor force participation rate for the people that are able-bodied, not the disabled, not the people that aren't able-bodied, not the single moms and stuff like that, but the able-bodied people between the ages of 18 and 64, it's only like 60%. So that means 40% of the population isn't even bothering to look or anything, participating at all. That's ridiculous. Yeah, he pointed to the data showing that 1 in 10 people aged 16 to 24 are unemployed. I would say way more than 1 in 10 people ages 16 to 24 are unemployed. I would think the vast majority of people ages 16 to 24 aren't working. Immigrants play a crucial role in taking care of some of America's most vulnerable Americans, and now they're being pushed out of the country. Well, you know what? Ooh. Aggressive immigration crackdown by the Trump administration is striking fear not only among blue-collar workers, but inside the nation's white-collar offices, too. Companies are making hard decisions about whether to spend time and money fighting to keep staff or fire them. Oh, well. 2-minute read. Let's look. Companies are making hard decisions on whether to spend time and money fighting to keep staff or fire them. Some multinationals are even outsourcing jobs to other countries. Well, of course they are. These multinational companies need to pay the penalty if they want to do this stuff. Companies are reluctant to talk publicly about immigration, but lawyers and HR consultants are fielding calls for help from employers with immigration anxieties regarding their professional employees. If there's white-collar people hiring illegal aliens to work in offices and stuff like that, yeah. For the first time in 20 years of advising white-collar employers on immigration law, clients are asking, what do I do if there's an ICE raid? Well, say okay and let them do their job. Her typical clients employ those with at least a bachelor's degree in professional fields such as IT and medicine. So I wonder if this has to do with people coming with fake documentation. Like I've heard a lot of stories about people coming with degrees, like that there's these, what are they called? Like not chop shops, but basically like boiler rooms for degrees, and they just print them up in some countries. I don't want to, cast aspersions, but India, Malaysia, Pakistan, where they're not really universities. They just print these degrees out and basically claim it's a university, and they come here and they get jobs, and they don't actually know how to do the job, and they just fake it and they lie. They use AI, they use other people to try and do the stuff to try to get the work done, just until they can get enough money in the state. Degree mills, boiler rooms, degree mills, yeah. And I wonder if that's the problem. So white-collar employers are perhaps most nervous about employees who have work authorization under humanitarian programs, temporary protected status, asylum, or parole. Wait. So if these people are that great and they're these advanced, why would they need to come here for temporary protected status? None of this makes sense. These might include people from countries like Venezuela, Afghanistan, Ukraine, or Haiti. Even if they're legal today, they don't know they're going to be legal tomorrow. Well, I think 500,000 of them are no longer legal because Trump revoked it. Because Biden just, was granting like mass hundreds of thousands of people a year. Just come on. Said, yes, but over the weekend, Trump administration appeared to shift tactics, bowing to pressure from businesses. The White House paused raids and arrests of workers at hotels, farms, and meatpacking plants, which I am very upset about. Don't pause the raids. Get more raids. Go. All must go. Those exclusions aside, however, Trump late last night ordered ICE to increase its deportation efforts in large Democratic-run cities. Good. By the numbers, there are about 8.5 million undocumented. Okay, that is a blatant lie. There's 8.5 million undocumented workers in the U.S., according to an estimate soon to be published by Matthew, a senior researcher for the Center of Migration Studies. Okay, that's bullshit. Okay, bullshit. In the 2000s, when they were trying to do the amnesty that Bush W wanted to do, they were claiming that there was 11 or 12 million illegals in the country at that point in time. I'm going to tell you right now, there is over 50 million illegal aliens in this country right now. Well over 50 million. The vast majority of them are not from Mexico. They're from other places. There's a fairly high share of undocumented workers in the fast-growing occupations like data scientists and software developers. Well, they're all breaking the law then, and those companies need to be prosecuted. Many firms are now undertaking I-9 audits to make sure workers are authorized. Employers are scrambling to figure out who they can employ because one of their obligations is to verify if someone's employment authorization is ending. We've been very busy. Yeah. All right. That's enough of that story. But yeah, I don't feel sorry for any of these companies. Pay Americans, pay a decent wage, pay them a wage they can work with. And if not, the people got to go. So, here's another story. It says, Arizona official exposes Medicaid fraud in state. It says thousands unassisted weren't checked or verified. What do you know? Fraud. Go figure. Seems like everything the government's involved in is massive fraud. Arizona Senate Majority Leader Janae Shamp on Tuesday exposed Medicaid fraud in her state, saying that multiple people who applied for benefits were not checked or verified. We had 388,000 people last year that applied for Access, which is Arizona's version of Medicaid program. And 23% of those people were checked. And of those, 23%, 33% failed. So they only checked 23% of the people. And of the 23%, 33% failed. So if you just extrapolate that number out, that's a lot of failing people. Shamp said that 130,000 people haven't been verified and were getting benefits anyway. Why, she asked? Because we know that the CFR, the federal regulations, state that there needs to be 100% verification, and we're not getting that done here in Arizona. Shamp, House Majority Leader Michael Carbone, and other Republican lawmakers held a press conference on Tuesday in the Arizona State Senate Majority Caucus Room to release a report exposing alleged fraud within the state agency under Arizona Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs. Well, you know what they say, stolen elections have consequences. Arizona's Medicaid problems follow similar issues found in states like Ohio, where a Bloomberg law investigation revealed that state health departments and Medicaid contractors often fail to detect or ignore blatant fraud, costing taxpayers billions annually. I'm very much looking forward to pushing the governor to do an investigation, and hopefully the attorney general gets involved, Shamp said. Oh, she lifted the riots. Oh, there's the okay. Oh, here's a story that I kind of wanted Joe to talk about because this is kind of law related, but it says Khalil, the Maryland man Khalil, still wants the judge to order his release, even though he isn't held in the jurisdiction, and even though he has remedies under the INA. So yeah, so the judge, they're trying to go to that Judge Zinnis in the in there, and basically trying to get that Judge Zinnis to order his release, even though he's not being held in Maryland. He's being held under a federal indictment in Tennessee. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go through this whole stuff. This was something I sent to Joe, and I was hoping he would cover it, but he didn't. So this is interesting. This is a good, funny thing. I'm going to put my headphones on so I can hear what's happening. I'll pull this one up here. This is a good see. So this is from OSINT Defender, a good file. It says, the satellite signal for Iran's state-run television channel has reportedly been hacked, with all channels now playing anti-regime messaging and videos which call for freedom and revolution against the regime inside Iran. Good night, Kyle Reese. So this is very interesting. They're showing, basically propaganda. I wonder who's behind this. Interesting. Probably the Israelis, I would say. They're good at hacking, and they probably got into the systems and stuff. And this is a story I don't know if I really need to cover. These are the Democrats who've been arrested or detained and charged under Trump. We've basically talked about all of them in that other story that we went through. So I don't think I really need to get into that. This is a good story. Not good story. This is a shitty story, but it's one that should be covered. It says, judge says government can't limit passport sex markers for many transgender non-binary people. So the State Department had issued new guidance saying that they're not going to put all these different genders and stuff on the passports, that it's going to be your sex at birth, and that's it. And a judge said, no, you can't do that, which is, just blatant political overreach that the judge has no right to do. It says, judge says government can't limit passport sex markers for many transgender and non-binary people. In an executive order signed in January, President Trump used a narrow definition of the sexes. Yeah, a narrow definition of the sexes, which is just biology, male and female. There's two sexes. This is ridiculous. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration for limiting passport sex markers for many transgender and non-binary Americans. Tuesday ruling by U.S. District Judge Julie Kobik means that transgender and non-binary people who are without a passport or need to apply for a new one can request a male, a female, or an X identification marker rather than being limited to the marker that matches their gender assigned at birth. First of all, it's not your gender assigned at birth. It's your gender at birth. It's your sex at birth. This is ridiculous. This is crazy, and this needs to stop. An executive order signed in January, the president used a narrow definition of the sexes instead of a broader conception of gender. This order said that a person is male or female and rejected the idea that someone can transition from sex assigned at birth to another gender. Nobody could change your sex. You can't. It's not possible. Kobik first issued a preliminary injunction against the policy last month, but that ruling applied only to 6 people who joined with the American Civil Liberties Union over a passport policy. In Tuesday's ruling, she agreed to expand the injunction to include transgender and non-binary people who are currently without a valid passport, those whose passport is expiring within a year, those who need to apply for a passport because theirs was lost or stolen or because they needed to change their name or sex designation. The White House did not immediately respond for comment. The government failed to show that blocking its policy would cause it any constitutional injury, Kobik wrote, or cause harm to the executive branch's relation with other countries. I think they could show that. It's probably going to get appealed. Yeah, it's crazy. How dare they? That's pedo stuff. Transgender and non-binary people covered by the preliminary injunction, meanwhile, have shown that the passport policy violates their constitutional rights to equal protection. Hello, my internet just went out for some reason. That is weird. Anyway, so hopefully it's back. Sorry about that. Even assuming that preliminary injunction inflicts some constitutional harm on the executive branch, such harm is a consequence of the State Department's adoption of a passport policy that likely violates the constitutional rights of thousands of Americans. Well, since the Supreme Court just came out in a 6-3 decision and said that the laws in the Tennessee's law on transgender surgeries for kids could go into effect. Did it go out again? What is happening? Wow. Is it keep dropping off? What's happening here? Anyway, maybe that's a sign. Maybe it's a sign. Colbrick, who was appointed by former President Joe Biden, sided with the ACLU's motion for preliminary injunction, which stays the action while the lawsuit plays out. Executive order and the passport policy on the face classify passport applications on the basis of sex and thus be reviewed under the intermediate judicial scrutiny. The standard requires the government to demonstrate that its actions are substantially related to important governmental interests, and the government has failed to meet the standard. They should appeal this and get it knocked out. In its lawsuit, the ACLU described how one woman had her passport returned with a male designation, while others are too scared to submit their passports. Well, I think if I think, oh hey Scott, what's up, buddy? Nice to see you. Future Conflict. I don't know if you guys know Scott with Future Conflict. They have a great channel. If you guys ever want to find out all the latest on stuff that has to do with war and stuff with China and all the different things, check out Future Conflict. Great channel. Scott, Joe, Technical Wisdom, Watcher on the web. And haven't seen the Virginia Gentleman in a while, but he's great too. Another male. So it's sort of saying a woman had her passport returned with a male designation. So that would be a man that says she's a woman got a passport back. That's what that would be. It's not a woman. It's a man pretending to be a woman. They fear their application might be suspended and their passports held by the State Department. Another mailed in their passport January 9th and requested to change their name and sex designation from male to female. That person was still waiting for their passport. The ACL said in a lawsuit and feared missing a family wedding and a botany conference this year. We should do the Council on Future Comicsgate. Comicsgate is getting crazy, isn't it, Scott? I don't know what's happening with Comicsgate these days. I really don't. In response to the lawsuit, the Trump administration argued that the passport policy change does not violate the equal protection guarantees of the Constitution. It also contended that the president has broad discretion in setting passport policy, and that plaintiffs would not be harmed since they are still free to travel abroad. Bad story. So, and that, my friends, I believe is, well, you know what? We're gonna do. I gotta pull up some more links real quick. Okay, we're gonna get into a little Karen Reed stuff because. Well, why not? Why not, right? We'll do this at the end right here. Yeah, there's a new 6-3 decision out of the Supreme Court that just came out. I think it was yesterday or whatever. Basically, that says that Tennessee law does not violate the constitutional rights of anybody, that they can restrict, sex changes on, mutilation of minors, basically. So let's do this. Let's share this tab, and let's see. This says this is the happiest I've ever felt. Journalist Dr. Turtleboy, who has followed the Karen Reed case for years, reacts after she was acquitted of murder and manslaughter charges. Yes, if you haven't heard it yet, Karen Reed was found not guilty of all the charges except for driving under the influence. So she got a DUI, which I'm kind of suspect of, because how is she guilty of DUI when they didn't test her for hours and hours later? How do they know she didn't drink? They should have made that argument that there was no proof that she didn't drink when she went home. So how do you know when she had her last drink? So let's see what Mr. Turtleboy has to say. Which I'm not 100% convinced that she didn't hit him with the car. I just don't think they didn't prove. I just think they didn't prove it. I don't think they had the evidence. I think there was other plausible reasons. I just don't. the prosecution put on a case of possibilities, like not even probabilities, just possibilities. Like, this is possible. This is possible. They didn't put on any facts. I'm not going to say she's innocent, but she's definitely not guilty. And they never proved that she was guilty. I think there's more likelihood that something else happened to John. I think it's more likely that he was injured in a physical fight. I think it's more likely that he was bit by a dog. I think it's more likely that Brian Higgins had something to do with it. His behavior is really suspicious. The way that they discarded their phones and they hit him and smashed him and all this stuff. Suspect, man. Suspicious behavior.
Turtle Boy, can I ask you a question? Hey, this is actually Turtle Boy. You brought this case to the forefront here. They're screaming your name here. How are you feeling and about the verdict?
Overcome with emotion. It's the happiest I've ever felt. I want to cry. I want to be happy. It hasn't really set in yet.
Explain to people nationwide why this case resonates so much with so many people.
Because she's quite clearly not guilty. It couldn't be more obvious. You could.
Yeah, Scott, I'm really looking forward to see if that actually goes through. I heard that they added the short act into the Senate bill, and the silencers, the silencers were already removed from the NFA and the House bill. If that makes it through, that would be awesome. That really would. That would really, make it a lot easier for people to actually have weapons in their house that they can use effectively to defend their house. Because for home defense, really, an SBR with a can on it is your best option in your house. Like something like a 10-inch barrel, 7-inch barrel with a can would be your best bet inside your house. That way you don't have to worry about blowing your eardrums out.
Couldn't get this amount of people to come out and support somebody if there was any doubt whatsoever that they did it. And it's just so transparent from the beginning that she was innocent. It's a crime that she had to go through what she went through just to get here. But this is justice. This should have happened a long time ago, and we are just overcome with emotion. And I can't thank the jury enough for seeing through the lies, seeing through the misinformation that came out of Hank Brennan's mouth.
What do you make of, how did this happen? How did you, Turtle Boy, the blogger, make this into such
I'm a journalist. I'm not
journalist? No, sorry, I apologize. But how did you make this? Why do you think it got so much momentum? Can you take me back to the moment where you thought this was different?
So the first time I wrote this, my first story, the Canton cover-up, I've done 520 installments now. My part 1, April 18th.
Oh, the Delphi, Duck and Felonies, the Delphi case. I don't understand that one either. I don't understand how that guy got. It seems like so much shady stuff, and the same type of thing. A judge that was just like the same thing. Like the judge in that Delphi case, from what I understand, what was her name? Judge something Swan or some weird name to judge. But yeah, I don't get it.
2023, when I dropped that, it exploded. I got 500,000 views on that one. I did my first show on it. Record-setting audience, and I realized this is a story that's resonating with people because it's outrageous, and none of these.
Okay, Scott, I can explain the Karen Reed case in a nutshell. This woman and her boyfriend, who was a cop, who seems like a nice guy. He was raising his sister's kids. That she passed away, and then her husband passed away, and then she was raising her kids. This woman, she was dating her. They liked to drink. This whole town of people, and they were out partying, drinking. Then there was some kind of after party. They went to the after party, and he got out of the car. And I say he got out of the car because people drove past the car, and they said he wasn't in the car when they drove past the car. That's what those witnesses say, that they drove past. They never saw him in the car. And there was an ATF agent who was trying to mess around with the Karen Reed, the woman too, and she had just ghosted him and stuff. And so there was some kind of thing going on between the guy and so anyway, they found him the next morning in the snow dead. But they tried to say he was hit by a car. He had no signs of a car accident on him anywhere. He had some scratches on his arm that were clearly looked like a dog injury. And he had just a thing on the back of his head, and looked like he fell and cracked his head on something. So, I mean, it's possible that he was just walking in the house. He was drunk and he slipped and fell and banged his head on something and died, and with something chewed on his arm. But the fact that they were trying to say that, and then there was a video of the following morning when she was leaving at 5 a.m. to go look for him, where you could see her backing up and hitting his car and clearly when she was backing up to hit the car, you could see the red from her taillights on the car, and then as she pulled away, you could see the taillight falling apart and it turning white. So anyway,
these people are protesters. None of these people go and participate in protests, political protests, nothing like that. These are just people who are just outraged because they can see their daughter or their sister or their mother, it could be Karen Reed, and they're saying, no, we're not going to sit there in silence and watch an innocent woman be put in shackles. We're not going to allow it. And we raised over $1 million for a legal defense fund. It helped pay for the experts. We did standouts. We raised awareness. And that is why you are seeing this beautiful thing here right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they tried to go after this. They tried to go after Turtle Boy and charge him with all types of weird stuff, like trying to, intimidate witnesses and everything. Oh, sorry, Mr. K. I went live while Joe was still. Joe Good Logic said, "Oh, I'm gonna end my stream in 5 minutes. I'm landing a plane, blah blah blah." And he was doing a poll to see about continuing or doing another day or something. And so I sent him a message and I said, "Oh, I'll jump on and I'll go live. Redirect your stream to me." And he didn't. So I cried about it for about an hour, and then I got over it. All the people here, made me feel better and told me that made me feel wanted. And so I figured I would just, carry on as a wayward son. There'll be peace when we are done. Lay your weary head to rest and don't cry no more. So anyway, breaking, Karen Reed was found not guilty of second-degree murder in the 2022 death of her boyfriend, Officer John O'Keefe. She was accused of hitting him with her car and leaving him in the snowstorm. After a mistrial in her first trial, the jury reached a verdict Wednesday following days of deliberation. I don't know. I don't know. She would have, if she wouldn't have, if she wouldn't have made all these statements, I think, to the press and everything, I don't think she would have gotten convicted of anything, but that's just my opinion. Justice served, Karen Reed was framed for murder by the corrupt Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Time for the real culprits to pay. I think that's her brother. Nothing would have been possible without Dr. Turtleboy. Thank you for your strength, bravery, and courage. Free Dr. Turtleboy. Yeah, because they're trying to get him. They're trying to get him for intimidating witnesses and all types of stuff for just reporting. And, yes. This judge is the embodiment of evil. Judge Bev, she did everything she could to try and wrangle a conviction out of this. If not, she was trying to get another complete mistrial because there was a question. It was just insane when the jury asked, if we find Karen not guilty on 2 charges, is it going to be a mistrial for everything, or is it just going to be a mistrial on one thing? Oh, okay, Scott. Take care, buddy. I'll see you Friday morning on your show. For you guys don't know, Future Conflict streams every morning at around 9 Eastern time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and does great shows just to catch you up on all the war stuff with Ukraine, Iran, Israel, anything war related, military related, they do. And then, breaking, Karen Reed has been found not guilty. So here we're going to listen to them read the verdicts just because I like to be thorough.
Mr. Foreman, on docket number 2282 CR 117001, murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you?
Sure.
No. Do you agree?
Yes.
Do all of you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. 002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Of.
Is not guilty or guilty about that charge or any lesser included charge? Thank you. Specifically, number 5, operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Correct?
Yes.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
So say you all?
Yes.
003, what say is the defendant at the bar leaving the scene after accident resulting in death? Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all? Jurors, hearken your verdict as the court records it. You upon your oath.
See, I personally think that they should have made the argument. The defense could have did a better job when there were people were talking about the stuff to get the evidence in about her being drunk. They should have brought up the fact that, do you have any information whether or not she drank after she got home at whatever time it was, 12:45 in the morning? Do you know she drank anything? How do you know what her last drink was? How do you know what I mean? How do you know? That's what I would have, I would have made those arguments, but I'm not a lawyer. I just play one in my mind.
Say the defendant on 001 is not guilty, on 002 is guilty of operating in the influence of liquor, and 003 not guilty. Thank you.
All right, jurors, everybody please be seated. Jurors, we thank you for your service. We're going to send you back. Your service is complete. I'd like to come back and talk to you for a little bit afterwards. So thank you very much.
All rise.
Okay. So yeah, and then there's this thing that from Turtle Boy News. Canton cover up part 1. Corrupt state troopers helps Boston cop cover up murder of fellow officer, frame innocent girlfriend. So I would advise you guys, if you want to check it out, go check this out over here at the Turtle Boy Daily News. So I would check that all out. But anyway, I am going to wrap it up. It's 4 a.m. where I'm at. I went almost 3 hours. I appreciate everybody, and I want to thank you all for being here. And I really appreciate all the support and the likes and the thumbs up. If you haven't liked, please check that like button. Please hit the subscribe button if you're here and you haven't subscribed. What is this? Well, Patrick, I haven't been to sleep yet. I was streaming, I don't know. We'll see. I got to be up in 2 hours anyway, so I'm going to get 2 hours of sleep. It'll be just like back in the service, But anyway, I want to thank everybody. It was great. And I'll see you all tomorrow night, maybe, definitely Friday night. We'll see what happens. Thank you all for being here, and where Jim will tell you the news.